Right, good morning everyone. Just checking the screens out there. I hope you can hear me. So good morning to each and every one of you and welcome to the final push, okay, where we are preparing now for the finals. As I said, this is for grade 10s, 11s and 12s, although mostly for grade 12s, but you'll see in today's session where we're looking at the theory, I'm starting all the way back in grade 10 and I'm going to move all the way through to grade 12. So it is going to be a long session. I'm here for, 3 hours, but we'll see how the time goes. So I want to structure it this way. We're going to go get some of the grade 10 work, look at a few exam questions, grade 11 work, exam questions, and that's how we're going to progress through everything. So a massive welcome and thank you very much to all of those who are here. Please share this, invite whoever needs to see this, to be part of this, and also don't forget that in the chat, okay, you can throw in your questions there. If there is a lot of talking going on, then please use the super chat option so that your comment can actually get highlighted, and obviously that's supporting the channel as well, so we can do more of this kind of content. So just a huge thank you to each and every one of you who are here this morning, and we have a packed session where we are going through everything. So I've got like a whole ton of equipment in front of me, but yes, I would love to hear who you are, which school you are joining me from, and where in South Africa you are actually jumping in from. So I'm going to move over to one of my other screens, and we're going to start looking at some of our theory modules. Remember, beginning in grade 10. So let me go. Right, so here we are looking at our modules. Sorry, let me just get to the proper screen here. Okay, Carlton, welcome. Tate, no problem at all. Founders Hill College, where is that? I see we've got Tableview High School in Cape Town. Welcome. Eompek Secondary. I don't always know where these schools are located, but yes. Okay, I see Hoërskool Acacia in Pretoria. Okay, welcome. Right. So, guys, please, just a few house rules, because I know how these things can get. Let's not spam in the chat. Let's leave out the bad language. Just ask your questions in the chat. And again, you can use the super chat feature. If you see, there's too many comments coming through, it helps obviously support the channel, and then for your comment to stand out as well. And remember that those who engage the most, because I'm going to check through this each day, those are the ones who are actually going to then be chosen as winners. So remember, we've got 2 gigs of data up for grabs. We've got a webcam, HD webcams, and then the individual who's over today and tomorrow doing the most or engaging the most is going to be getting that mechanical keyboard. I see we've got Wittenberg from the Free State. Tate is saying that is in Pretoria. Okay, so we've got Pretoria, Free State, Cape Town in the house. Welcome, everyone. Okay, so remember what I said initially. This is the grade 12 theory prelim prep, okay? But we're starting from grade 10. Now, this is the layout that you'll find for all of your question papers. We have multiple choice, match the column, true or false, system technology. So I'm going to be going through each one and giving you typical questions. I love this. We've got Luanga. Hi there. We've got Benoni in the house in Mpumalanga. Fantastic. Jessica from Highveld Park. Hi. Welcome. Lovely to have all of you here. Okay. Now, this I've taken from, these sample questions I've taken from the June prelim and finals of 2021, and then looking at all the papers in 2022 as well. Carlton from Johannesburg. Beautiful, man. Listen, guys, I love it. Okay, so let's go all the way back to where you started And again, I'm going to be breezing through this, so I'm not going to go in depth, but if there is something, I've got the comments on the side here that's open. You can then just stop me and ask a question along the way. So module 1.1 dealt with the introduction to computers. So you started grade 10 and we spoke about what a computer is. We can use examples like a laptop, smartphone, tablet. Just think of what these devices do that make them computing devices. So in the past, when we spoke about a computer, it was just the desktop or laptop. We know things have changed since then. So now we've got smartphones and tablets that can do more or less what the others can. So just understand how they are grouped together. There we've got laptop, smartphone, tablet, and desktop. These are multi-purpose devices, which means they can do more than one thing at a time. I mean, you can listen to music and be browsing the internet. Okay, they are electronic devices, and the ones on the left are obviously portable. Please, portability does not mean that I can pick it up and move it around. It means that I can work on it while I'm, wherever I am. And one of the main features of portability is the fact that the device will use a battery. A desktop does not use a battery. Even though I might be able to pick it up, walk out with it, that does not make it portable. Okay, so remember that. Then we dealt with the terms of hardware and software. So we know that hardware, it refers to the physical parts of your computer. I see we've got Durban in the house. Welcome, welcome. Referring to the physical parts that we can touch and see, like our mouse, our keyboard, our printer. Let me just say mouse, keyboard, printer. Here I've got a motherboard. Here I've got a hard drive as well. These are all my hardware devices, my physical devices that I am using. Okay, when we talk about software, now even though I can hold the CD to, let's say, Microsoft Office in my hands, that doesn't always mean that it's now suddenly hardware. No. When we talk about software, we're talking about a program. So whenever you see this term software or applications, just understand it's referring to programs that perform specific functions. So there they tell us it's specific instructions which we give to the computer to get something useful. We've got Ladysmith here as well. Beautiful, guys. Lovely to have all of you here. It's also a multi-purpose tool, means it has the ability to run on different types of programs, or to run different types of programs. So there we've got, for example, Windows, which can run all these other pieces of software as well. So software, just think of it simply as programs. Okay. Now, they ask the question, why can a smartphone be regarded as a computer? Because it's got an operating system, it's got programs or apps on it that does more than just making a phone call. Remember, in the past we had those wonderful phones. What was it? Anybody remember the Nokia 3310? The legend, the absolute legend of phones. Okay, the indestructible phone. That one hardly had anything on it besides making calls, SMSs, and playing Snake, which was fun. Okay, we had a ball with that. But now look at what the phone can do. We can phone, we can SMS, we can do instant messaging, we can do video calls, we can record video, we can take photos. So all of those things together have turned the phone from just being a phone into a smartphone. Then one of the big daddy chill one of the big things that goes all the way through from grade 10 to grade 12 is the information processing cycle. So input, processing, output, and storage. And when they ask you for those things, they might not ask it to you in the specific order, but you need to know those four. And you'll see as we go through, you'll need to identify some hardware devices and be able to explain it as well. So this can be like a 4 to 8 mark question. And there you can see. Now for grade 12s, this is important because in the prelim paper, what they did was they actually asked you to apply it to a scenario. So here, they're asking you to apply the information processing cycle to inputting somebody's number in a smartphone. So what are we doing? There we can see input is where you type in the contact's details using your keyboard. The processing is where the smartphone checks if you've already got that contact. You know, when you type in somebody's name in or put in a new number in, then it checks to see if that number is there. That's the processing. The output is when the message is displayed on the screen showing that the contact exists, or when you're done with the storage that it's been added. So that's what's coming out to you. Remember, input is what we put into the PC, the instructions we are giving the PC. Output is what we get out as a result of the input and processing. Processing is when it's actually doing the work, and obviously storage is where we are saving it. Okay, hope you guys are still with me. Yes, sir. I see there from Pongo. Beautiful. Okay, so please remember, our computers process what? Data. And what is data? 2 words, only 2 words, raw facts. Okay, that's what data is. It's raw facts. So what is information? Information is processed data, taking data and turning it into something meaningful. Okay, if you just give me a list of cell phone numbers, what does that mean to me? It means nothing to me. It's data. When I take those cell phone numbers, come in, morning. I take those cell phone numbers and I add names and surnames and say, sort of who it's for. That's when I've actually turned it from data into information. I got a few of my physical learners joining me here, so they'll see everything up on the screen. And listen, don't be shy to ask what you need to. I'm literally running from grade 10 all the way through. All right. So another thing that always comes up with regards to starting up the PC, and that's what's called the booting process. So they might ask you in grade 10, they'll probably just ask you, what is the booting process, or just define it. And there we can see the operating system automatically loads when the computer is switched on. So when we talk about booting up, we are talking about switching on the PC to the point where the operating system is loading. All of that is referred to as booting up. From there, once Windows loads, you'll then log in, as many of you do, with a username and password. And this then allows you access to your files and folders. Right. By now, all of us know what the desktop is. We know what our icons are, our start button, all this type of thing. Guys, we have gotten to the end of grade 10. Okay. So at this point, yeah, you should know that. Okay, our GUI. You need to know what it stands for and what it does. So GUI, and please, in the papers, they will say to you, expand the acronym. So if they say that, it means all they want is for you to say, well, GUI stands for Graphical User Interface. If they say to you, expand and explain, you will still do that, but then you'll have to say, well, what does it actually mean? Well, a graphical user interface means that I've now got pictures and icons and menus that I can interact with in terms of the PC. So now, where previously you had, you had instructions that you had to type in. Now you interact with the operating system and the PC via menus, icons, start buttons, things that we've taken for granted. Okay, mouse actions that we should know. And then they just give you a little intro to Windows, where they're just showing you that through the different programs, there are common features, things like your title bars, active windows. This is more grade 10, where they will give you pictures and ask you to identify certain things. So just make sure that you can do that. Very important, when you save your work, the current work done on a computer is kept temporarily in memory. So this is why when you're working on something and the PC shuts down and you switch it back on, it can sometimes, when you want to open that program, it'll tell you, listen, do you want to restore, that particular file? Why? Because it's being kept temporarily in memory. What memory are they referring to? They are referring to RAM. Okay? To keep the work that you have, to save it to, so when we want to keep it permanently, we talk about storage. Please remember the difference. RAM, temporary storage area for instructions, whereas our hard drives, this is what's referred to as permanent or a permanent storage area. Okay, then you just give us a few details. Please, when they talk about a QWERTY keyboard, they just mean that it's referring to the first 6 letters. Jenna, yes, this video will be, once the live stream is done, then what will happen is it will be on the channel under the list of live videos. So today's one and tomorrow's. Okay. We've looked at input on smartphones with our keyboards, guys. We know how that works. For the grade 10s, just note that ASDF JKL semicolon, that is known as your home row. Okay, so just know that. Right. Sir, just to make sure, GUI is part of a system and not hardware. Yes, it is not hardware. Okay, we are talking about a feature. So that's our graphical user interface. Jenna saying thank you so much here from Cape Town, Milnerton High. You're a great help, Achno. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I do what I can. Okay, so now we're talking about application software versus system software. Again, very important. And as we move to grade 11s, etc., you'll start to see the scenarios that come in. Application software is a group of programs that perform specific tasks for us as users. Again, specific tasks. Things like word processing programs, for example, Word, typing tutors, gaming software. Whereas system software is intended to control and support the entire computer. So, for example, I'll always say to my learners, WhatsApp cannot control your phone. Your operating system controls your phone. Your phone can do without WhatsApp, but it cannot do without the operating system. Okay, so just remember it like that. Carlton's asking, sir, does more RAM speed up your computer? Yes, it does. It's actually one of the biggest factors when you want to improve the performance of your computer, especially with laptops. RAM and changing the hard drive, those are the 2 easiest ways to actually up the performance. More RAM and change it from a traditional hard drive to a solid state drive. Okay, so with our system software, we've got an operating system like Windows, and please, when you give examples, don't say Windows. Okay, you've got to say Windows 10. You've got to add a version, Windows 11. Your utility software, these are programs that are built into the operating systems. So when you install or when you buy a PC that's got an operating system, it should have those utility pieces in place. Again, the operating system is software which controls all the activities that take place inside the PC. There we have a few examples. So you can use any of these examples when it comes to your exams. Just make sure that you don't just put Windows, but that you actually put the version. Okay. You can even use, as they show in there, cell phone versions. So that's also fine because it's still an operating system, people. Okay, still functions as that. This is very important. You must know at least 2 functions of the operating system. So number 1, it manages all the hardware and software in the computer. It maintains the security, in other words, how you log on with usernames and passwords. It provides that GUI. So that's what we spoke about earlier. It's a feature of the operating system to provide you with this GUI. So you should know at least 2 of these functions. Look, if you can know more, that's fine. The graphical user interface, we did mention this. It provides us with a desktop, our menus, our shortcuts, all these different things. All right. Then they do mention other Windows components. You might get this, grade 10s, but generally you'll be using this in your prac. So you just need to know where all of these things actually are. So do familiarize yourself with this. They do sometimes ask theory questions on this, to ask you, like to give you a picture of that radio button area and ask you, what does this refer to, or what sort of button is this? And they might give you a few options. Okay, please remember a dialog box is a box that's speaking to you. Okay, so when you are working in a document, yes, I'm just looking at one of my learners, and you close that window, what happens? Is there a box that usually comes up to you? Yeah. And a dialogue means to talk. So that box comes up to say, hey, whoa, did you save? Have you saved? No, I haven't. Do you want to save? Yes, I want to. So that is your dialog box. Right, then with the utilities, please know at least 2 types of utility software. This is stuff that's come up in even the grade 12 exams. So there's a whole list of utilities, but you can mention any of them. Number 1, remember, they are built into the operating system. And number 2, they are there to help with things that you just want to do on the PC. This is why some of the utilities include like Notepad and WordPad. Windows doesn't assume that when you buy a PC that you're just going to have Office. Okay. Right. Then we have our Office suite. So grade 10, 11, and 12, when we talk about an Office suite, what are we referring to? We're talking about a few programs that are actually integrated and built into one. So I install one application, but it's actually composed of a number of, that's why we talk about a suite, meaning many. So in the Office suite, what do I have? I've got one installation package that has Word, spreadsheets, database, PowerPoint, all of these. Ricardo's asking, is disk defragmentation utility software? Yes, it is, because it is built into the operating system. Okay, we've got communication software. Please, when we talk about word processor, we're talking about Microsoft Word and other applications that do the same thing. Okay, so don't get confused with that. They just give us a couple more examples, and then we move on to hardware. Now, this is what I mentioned earlier. We start, even though this is in grade 10, we find this in grade 11 and grade 12. The information processing cycle. Do you see that it starts on a particular point? Yes and no. We've got input, because the first thing we are going to do is give instructions. The computer receives those instructions, is what it's telling us here, by me typing things in. So whether it's on my phone or the keyboard, that's what it's doing. From there, there's processing that takes place. So input, I'm given an instruction. What do I use? I can use a keyboard, a mouse, a joystick, anything like that. Know what it is, know how to explain it, and be able to give a hardware example. They can ask it any way they want to. The processing, there you see the computer works on the data. Output is obviously what we see, the result of that processing. And then we can decide to go the storage route to save it. But now you see we've actually added another one that's called communications, because think about this. I create a spreadsheet with all of my learners' data, do the processing, do the output, and I don't just want to print it. I want to email it to them or put it up on my site or things like that. And that's where communications actually comes in. So please just remember that whole cycle. It'll start with input, but it can end really anywhere. That's why they don't ask for it in order. Okay, our input devices, we know our keyboard. Guys, please know a few of those shortcuts as well. Those are just general shortcuts that you do need to know. Just a few more as well. The print screen button on your keyboard. Do also, grade 10 is very important, the clipboard. What is the clipboard? And this has come in the grade 11 papers as well. It's an area in memory where text and other objects have been copied. They are temporarily stored. So when you are busy, let's say copying from a website into PowerPoint and you decide to close it, or Word, sometimes they'll ask you, do you want to delete what's in the clipboard? Because it's been sitting there temporarily waiting for you to do something with it. Okay, so just know what that clipboard is. I think it has come up in the grade 12 paper as well. Sometimes it just comes up as like a 1-mark question. Ooh, very important. Very important. Grade 12s. Yeah, the prelim. The prelim did this to you. Okay, that is our motherboard, like the one you see here in front of me. And you can see there are a number of different ports on this. So you need to know these things. Doesn't matter if you're in grade 10, 11, or 12, you need to know this. What are these ports? They are sockets used to connect peripherals. What is a peripheral? What is a peripheral? When we talk about peripherals, we are talking about anything outside of the tower itself. Okay, so let me actually just go over here. So if I have my tower over there, and I'm hoping you can see this. Yeah, if I've got my tower, it's not as dark, and I've got my monitor over here, I have my keyboard. These are all connecting to the PC. These are all peripherals outside of my system unit. Please do not call this a box. Please don't call this a box. I think sometimes they don't even want you to call it a tower. So just stick to system unit. All of these things are peripherals. Obviously this is your monitor, keyboard, but anything that's going to plug into that is going to fall under the umbrella term of a peripheral. Okay, are we together? Okay, then we have this lovely term called plug and play. Now, plug and play is a feature of the operating system. It's where it automatically detects a device plugged into the PC so you can use it. We know when we plug in flash drives, what happens? We plug our flash drive, into the PC, and then what happens? The PC picks it up and it's able to work with it. Plug it in and use it. That is a feature that we have. Now, this is very important, 10s, 11s, and 12s, in different ways for you. So first of all, your wireless mouse and keyboard. One of the first things they'll ask you, they'll put it in a scenario and ask you, why should I use a wireless mouse and keyboard? Well, first of all, I don't have cables. I mean, that's like, yeah, a given. I mean, it's a wireless keyboard. It has no wires, okay? That is an advantage. You have a wider range of movement, which means I can move it around as much as I want to. I can keep it on my lap, desk, whatever it is. Just know that it uses short-range radio waves. So usually Bluetooth, so that means we are limited in terms of the distance. So they'll always ask you, what are the advantages and disadvantages of using a wireless keyboard and mouse? Please, at least two of each, you should know. All right, so output is what the computer produces as a result of the processing. Here's another one. Always comes up. Our monitor. We'll get scenarios that deal with the monitor and looking at the size. You must know it's measured diagonally in inches, and the resolution refers to the quality of the image. So that quality is made up by pixels, okay? The little dots, right? The more you have, the better the image is going to be. And just to give you an example, if, let me see, where's this thing? I am no artist, so please do not judge me, okay? Let's say I want to draw this wonderful stick man, right? You can see fantastic work. But if I were to draw it as a computer does it, I would need to put dots in place. These are my pixels that actually make up the image. Now, when you see that, it doesn't look very good, does it? Right? But the more pixels I actually have, are you starting to see what happens? It now begins to look like a much better picture. Okay? So those numbers you see on a monitor, that refers to the pixels that we have. The higher that number, the more pixels there are, which means the better the image quality is going to be. Okay, so resolution is our quality. Can we see that number? The bigger the number, the larger the number, the higher the number is, the better the image quality is going to be. Are we together? Right. We also have graphics cards. Now, this will be separate to what the actual PC has, because most PCs will have it built in. So if you look at this motherboard over here, you'll see there, where am I? There, it's built in. To the actual motherboard, you'll see it's not an extra card. Oops. So that's fine. But we can have another one, which is a separate high-end graphics card. And I've got one in my PC that's actually allowing me to split my image across 3 different monitors. Okay, so we usually use that for gaming, video editing, things like that. More terms that you need to know. Response time. This is the time it takes for a pixel to change from one color to another, and it's measured in milliseconds. So you want that to be as low as possible, so it moves quickly from one pixel to another. And then you also need to know about how monitors connect these days. They connect via VGA, which is the old standard that I was showing you here, there in blue. We've got HDMI. Now, there was a question in with the grade 12s asking them, what port is this? Huh? And that is VGA. Yeah, you see, you're still getting it wrong. Okay. So, what does VGA do? VGA only sends video. It only sends video. HDMI takes video and audio through. Okay, so this is why you find most TVs now, they have HDMI ports, because it's bringing through video and audio. And then you've got display ports, Thunderbolt, USB for specialized monitors as well. So, but the main two at the moment that they focus on is your VGA and your HDMI. Okay, then we've got our printers. Now, how do I say this now? You've basically got 2, but then they ask for a 3rd one as well. Okay. I see what's going on. With our inkjet printers, it sprays ink onto the page, which means the page comes out a little wet depending on the quality that you've actually set it up for. It is cheap to buy, expensive to maintain for the long run. You know, if I've got a business and I'm going to be printing from home and I'm going to be printing 300 to 500 pages, it's not going to work for me. I'll need a laser. Okay. Let's see. What does VGA stand for? It stands for Video Graphics Adapter. I see you guys are keeping me on my toes here this morning. Video Graphics Adapter. So, an inkjet printer is good for color. It's good for low volume printing, you know, like at home. Laser, it's going to be expensive to buy, but better in the long run because you're going to get more prints. Big disadvantage is the cost. Also, the fact that it only really prints in black and white. You can get a color laser, but it's going to be more expensive. So this will depend on the scenario. Just understand, if they say that somebody's going to be printing more than 350 to 400 pages per month, you're going to go laser. Okay. Can we also say video graphics array? Not that I'm aware of. Stick to video graphics adapter. Okay, and there they just show us with our printers. Yeah, I'm just, if you do say video graphics array, I don't think you're going to get those marks. So just be careful of that. Your terminology is going to be very important. Our printers connect via USB, and you'll see there that our default printer is the one that has the green circle with a white tick in it. Okay, that indicates that when I click print, this is the printer that is going to print out whatever I've sent to it. So that's the default printer. Then our printer queues. Please remember that printers have memory. They have memory in them. And this is why if an entire class, like I have set up here, if an entire class sends a print through, as the prints come through, it will go through into the memory, and that's where the printer queue comes from. Okay, as you can see it displayed there. Now the beauty of this is that with the printer queue, I can cancel, I can pause, and I can restart any of my prints. So if learners are just printing a whole bunch of things and I want to cancel some of them, I can go into that printer queue and I can actually go and cancel it. I can pause it as well, or if there's a problem, I can restart that as well. Tate, just remind me to answer that question, because you're asking, are we allowed to use CSS on a phase 3 website in grade 12? I don't see why not. I really don't see why not. Joanna, glad to have you with us here from Cape Town. On your pleasure. All right. Please, any questions so far? Are we still all together? Are you with me?
What's a CSI theme?
No, that. That's why I'm gonna deal with that afterwards. No, you don't have to worry about that now. Okay, let's move on. Storage. Now, when we talk about storage, it's got a larger capacity than memory. We're talking about our hard drives. Grade 11s and 12s will start to move on from the hard drives to the SSDs. So just bear that in mind. But that's where we keep all our data and programs. Now, I know this is old. Please, I know this is old. But just know the difference between the term storage device and storage medium. A storage device is a physical hardware device that I'm going to use to transfer my files onto a storage medium. Okay? A storage medium today that we use most of the time are things like external hard drives, flash drives, etc. And they don't necessarily need that. Whereas you see here with your CDs and DVDs, it needs a storage device like a CD writer or DVD writer to be able to actually pop that onto the storage medium itself. Okay, yeah, that's really all you need to know there. Storage capacities, again, you can go through this table and you can go check that out. Don't really ask much on this, maybe just only in the grade 10 section. Can there be a question mentioning why it says print error on the exam? Yes. You could get, especially in the grade 12 area, they'll say to you that this person printed and it kicked up an error. What could some of the problems be? One of the problems could be that the USB cable is not working properly. The printer might not be on. The printer might not be connected properly. The drivers, in other words, the software that speaks between the PC and the device itself that actually does the communication, that could be a problem as well. So those could be any of the issues that you come up with when dealing with printer issues. Okay, hard drives. Here you can see I have a physical hard drive in front of me. You can see the disk turning there. I hope you can see that. And the little arm over here that actually reads the disk. It's sort of like those LP players, those lovely old ones. Stores our programs measured in gigabytes or terabytes. These days we deal a lot with external hard drives that connect via USB and gets its power from the PC itself. Okay. Right, then our flash drives, most of us are familiar with this. Okay, we know what our flash drive's done. We know we can just plug it in and use it. This is important. This is something that comes up all the way through from grade 10 to grade 12. We saw it in the prelims, didn't we? Yes? Yes? They don't want to admit it, but it was there. Health concerns. So the first thing that always comes up is this term RSI, repetitive strain injury, and how do we avoid it? So know the term ergonomics, know RSI, and then also a few tips. You should know at least 3. Okay? At least 3. Green computing, you just need to know what it is. So obviously working with our computers in an environmentally friendly way. And then they'll usually ask you for an example or two. And there you can see a few of the examples. Guys, again, you don't need to know more than 2 of these examples, really. Right. Then I think the last one before we hit some of these questions, file management is just looking at keeping our files organized. So the main thing here was not really the Explorer, although for the grade 10s, they might ask you a question based on a picture that looks like this. So please just know these things and where they are. They might ask you, about subfolders and things like that. They might even ask you in the pracs to create smart art that looks like this. But what's important is this, the extensions. Now, what is an extension? An extension actually tells Windows which program it needs to use to open the file. So here we can see class.jpg. That .jpg indicates it's a picture. It means it needs to open a particular application that opens up pictures. Our pptx, it's PowerPoint. So Windows knows it must look for PowerPoint software in order to open the file intro computers. There we can see that our file name consists of 3 parts. First of all, the name of the file. Then we've got our dot and we've got our extension. Now take note that the name given by the user may consist of all the alphabetical characters, some special characters, and the digits 0 to 9 and spaces. Nothing else. If you put in anything else, it won't work. Okay, so our extensions, there are 3 or 4 letter code that identifies the file type. This you must know. Grade 11s and 12s, you're going to have to practically do this. I know in the prelim they ask you to change the extension of something. Yeah. So we're going to go through that tomorrow. You needed to change that extension. Just remember, and this is why they don't want you to change the extension. They actually put it here, never change the extension manually. It's going to change the program that opens up the file. So if that was a PDF and you change the extension to .docs, it's going to look to Word to open up that file. And then Word's going to be like, I don't know what this is. And it won't be able to open the file. Okay, so that's why we don't change it manually unless, like in the pracs, they do want you to do that. Okay, sir, may you please, I'm gonna get to all those things, guys. Okay, this is what will usually happen if your extension is not right. It will come up and tell you that it can't open the file. It'll give you a list of suggestions, things that you can do. This, again, another important bit. Our file path. This is how we get to the file itself. Please understand that file path. That is saying to you that it is on the D drive of your computer. Within the D drive, it's in the Documents folder. Within the Documents folder, it's in the Invoices folder. Inside the Invoices folder, it's in the 2017 folder. That is the path from your hard drive all the way through to a specific file that you might be pointing to. There was one in the prelim that dealt with the server. Remember that // server? File path. You see, we in grade 10 work. Shame my grade 12s are feeling bad. You don't need to know all of this, but just a few of them, so you have a general idea when it comes to file extensions. Okay. There they give us some more examples. Again, things, guys, that you can go through. Pongo, just remind me about that ADSL. I must actually make a note of it. Yes, file path, you can refer to it as the directions as to how to get there. Okay, so we know what can we do with files. We can copy them, delete them, rename them, sort them. Those are all things we should be familiar with. You should be familiar with the recycle bin. When we delete, things go to the recycle bin. Is it gone if it's in the recycle bin? No, I can still restore it. Just understand that files deleted from a network drive or a flash drive, which is the removable media that they're talking about, is not sent to the recycle bin. So I know some people, when they work on their flash drives and they delete and they go to the PC's recycle bin, it's not there, okay? Because this drive is not physically on this PC. It's not physically part of this PC. So it won't go there. You are looking for it in the wrong place, okay? So yeah, your searching is not going to help. Okay, then they just mention a couple of things like shortcuts. There again, you can just go through that, guys. You have all these things. And then this is important as well. You can save, and we'll see tomorrow, you can save your files as a different type. The file's only in the recycle bin until it's deleted permanently. When we talk about deleted permanently, we're talking about emptying the recycle bin. Okay? But please bear in mind, even when you empty the recycle bin, there are companies and there are ways to recover that data. I'm not going to go into that. You have to know that now. But yes, you can. Okay? So when we talk about deleting permanently, we're talking about putting it into the recycle bin and then emptying the recycle bin as well. So you can see Word, PowerPoint, all of them allow you to save the same file as a different type. And there they give us a whole list there as well. Guys, besides the WhatsApp, I've got a Discord channel that is actually easier for me, but yeah, you can let me know. I just don't want to have tons of actual groups. So looking at multiple choice, these are some questions that have come up since June last year. Okay, so these are typical questions that come up. This is for your multiple choice. Now please remember, when you look at your multiple choice, please read the question first, understand the question first before you select an answer. So which device is not an input device? First thing we think about is, well, what is an input device? What does it do? What did we just do? An input device gives instructions to the PC, right? So which one is not an input device? So let's go back and let's identify the input devices. Is a speaker an input device? What is it doing? Is it giving me something out of the PC, or am I using the speaker to give something to the PC? I'm getting something out. I mean, what do you do with your earphones? Do you put your earphones in to give an instruction to the PC? Like, no. Okay? You listen to music from your phone. You're getting something out of that phone or device. Your trackball is like your mouse, your fingerprint scanner, right? I'm putting my finger on that scanner and it scans into the PC. The joystick, I'm giving instructions as well. So the one that's not an input device will be my speaker. And again, you can see just by looking at the question, right? Before I do anything else. Here's another one. Which one of the following assists the user in organizing, maintaining, and improving the efficiency of the computer? This is talking now about looking at the PC as a whole. Beautiful. Okay? Just by us looking at the question and understanding the question, we've got the answer. Communication software deals only with us communicating. Jordan, yes, this will be available on the channel once the stream is done. Database does only databases. Access control, specific, but our utility software is the one that jumps out at us there. Here's another one. This was from the prelim. Which of the following processes allows a streamed video to be loaded while a user is watching it? Most of us should know this because, yes, because we stream. We stream, even though sometimes we're not supposed to, and some of the stuff is, yeah. But we do it anyway, and that is our buffering. This spooling and queuing, you'll see this refers to printers. Okay, so does that have anything to do with the question? No. Then, here was an interesting one. Which type of network is the internet? So, what does WLAN stand for? Wireless LAN. Is that the internet? Because I mean, the internet is global. So is it a global wireless network? No. What does GAN stand for? A global area network. That's a possibility. MAN is our metropolitan area network, and PAN is our personal area network. So now that we know the question and we understand the options, what's the answer? Our global area network. Okay? The whole idea of this is so that you can understand how they are asking the questions. Here's another one. They gave us a text message. Oh, more washing powder has rewarded you with 350,000 Rand. I would love an SMS like that. What is this? Whaling, farming, fishing, or ransomware attack? Again, it is important to understand the concepts. If you don't understand the concepts, people, these options will make no sense to you. No sense. This is like,
Whaling, sir. Sorry, sir.
I'll go through that. This is like those SMSs you get saying, you know, you've inherited money from someone and things like that. What are they trying to do?
Draw you in.
They're trying to draw you in. How do you do that? When you fish, what do? You throw out bait, right? In order to get someone. So don't always think that you need to understand all of these. Sometimes there are terms here that are thrown in just to confuse you. Like whaling has nothing to do with anything else here. We've got fishing, we've got farming, and our ransomware attack. That whaling has nothing to do with those options at all, but it's there to mess with you.
Huh? I thought I just thought of catfish. I was like, I'm fishing.
Yeah. What is okay? Catfish. What does that do? They lure you in and make you believe that they are someone that they are not, right?
So just to point this out, so whaling has nothing to do with cats.
No, nothing.
Did I not answer whaling?
Okay. Which one of the following refers to a sequence of folders that leads you to the location of a specific file? What did we just do? Our file path. Now we take that, and again, this is grade 10 work. So we take that and we go here. Which one of the following refers to a sequence, remember, in order, of folders that leads to the location of a specific file? That's going to be our path, okay, which is what we just did. Then we've got another one. Which one of the following statements are about ICT is false? And you'll see what they're doing. So I'm not going to go through everything. We just won't have enough time. But these are just some of the ways in which they ask these questions. Here are some others. Which one of the following is an online income tax return service? The next one. Now, again, these are things that we just need to know generally. Okay? These are things, some of these things won't even be in the textbook, but this is why you need to have your mindset open to CAT in general, like how it's used in real life as well. A computer connected to the internet that has been compromised by a hacker, what is that known as? Okay, so here it was e-filing. We were looking at a zombie. Okay. Well, the next one, which one of the following words would return a result of 4 when used with the len function in a spreadsheet? So here you can see they can even throw in some theory questions, some practical questions in a theory way. Okay, so yeah, just bear all of that in mind.
So what is the len function?
That len function we use to determine the number of characters. Okay. Technology can assist game rangers to monitor and detect poaching. Okay, there's things, different options as well. You can see that with the multiple choice, they want to try and get you to think outside of just your textbook. Like, how does it apply in the real world? The date and time a photo was taken can be found in what? This is important. It is the metadata. Okay, the metadata is like when you take a picture and I go and check that picture, I can see when you took the picture, the date, the time, the geotagging, in other words, the geographical location. That's all referred to as metadata. Okay, there again is a practical example brought into theory, and this one as well, the overall design of an entire document, which includes colors, fonts, and effects. That's obviously our style. And this one, which one of the following is not a formula that's available for calculations in a word table? It's going to be len. Okay, so again, just some more examples, guys. Here we have the following CPU specification would be considered a high-level spec, which means more powerful, and that's why it's preferred by a power user. Grade 12s, what's a power user? It's someone who's going to be using the PC for things like video editing, maybe some scientific calculations, calculating the weather and things like that. They might be doing hardcore gaming as well. So they need a PC that is powerful. You need to look at the specs and try and work that out. Then the cable most frequently used for smaller networks over a large distance. I'm going to go through these things. This one was important, a trend in technology that allows for household appliances to be connected to the internet, and that was the Internet of Things. Okay? Because voice over IP is transferring our voice over the internet. HTTPS, that's our hypertext transfer protocol, the secure one, when going to different websites. And then IM is our instant messaging. Okay. Just let me know, are we together so far? Sorry for some of the noise out here. There's some construction. Are you guys okay so far? You with me? Okay. Everyone on the stream, let me know if you are still with me. If there's any questions that you might be having as well. Okay, everyone's still with me. Right. Let's go. So we've got our general purpose computers, our desktops, laptops, tablets. Guys, by this time, we should know there's the box. Don't call it a box. It is a system unit, please. Please don't forget that it is a system unit. Do not call it the box. Okay, you will get that wrong. Just know the difference between those devices. Our general purpose. Here we start moving to very important items like the server. What is a server? Main computer on a network that provides resources and services to connected computers and users. You must know that. Okay, 10, 11, and 12, it will come through. Yeah, Jordan, that link, just be careful of that because I know I've got a new link. So check one of my latest videos. And then you'll see the new Google Drive link, but I'll put it in the comments to this video as well. We've got dedicated devices. These are things that perform one function. Okay, sort of like your girlfriend or boyfriend that's supposed to be dedicated to you only. One, not many. We don't want someone, and we don't want to get involved with someone who's going to be a general purpose device. Please, you owe it to yourself. And you are worth that dedicated device, please.
Tell them.
Yeah, no, please. Is it wrong if we say tower? Yes, you will get that wrong. They do want you to refer to it as a system unit. Okay, so with that, just know at least one or two examples. Then they mention ICT. Just know what it stands for. You don't really need to explain much in terms of that. Usually be a 1 or 2 mark question on that. Okay. Does this look familiar? Okay. We've already gone through this, right? This is important. ICT system. If they ask you what is an ICT system, it's a combination of hardware, software, data, processes, and people. With the goal of doing what? Collecting, processing, storing, retrieving, and communicating data. Guys, this slide is important. You must know this. All right? Please. Then they give us some examples of the different ICT systems. So again, here you can just know one of each. Don't to know, all of those examples. The one that does always come up is the POS system. So that one you need to focus on, okay? Because that comes up regularly. Berdeem Besta, unfortunately to go because we have load shedding. No problem. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here. Okay, let's move on. Ethical use of computers. In other words, using computers in a decent manner that benefits everyone. And here we're going to get into some touchy things. Okay, ways in which ICTs can be used to act unethically, theft of data. I'll get there. I don't want to go there now. Spreading false information. I know none of you do that. Okay, I'm confident. I have faith in you that you don't do that. Creating malicious software like viruses and Trojans. While these do not seem so bad, and you cannot see or touch things you are stealing, it doesn't seem to really hurt people, guys, it does. Okay, so you need to know what an ethical use of the computer is and provide at least 2 examples of ways in which you act unethically. Okay, and we're gonna get into some of those. So now we go further into software. We spoke about integrated software. When we talk about integrated software, we're talking about like a software package that has more than one program in it. For example, Office, right? The Office suite is an example of integrated software. Now, why would I do that? Why would I buy that? Because the separate packages have a similar interface. The separate packages are designed to share and exchange data, like Word, Excel, PowerPoint. We can merge and do a whole lot of things in there. And the best part of it is sold as one individual package. So I don't have to pay for Word and then PowerPoint and then database, because I know no one will buy database. Okay, I know I'm going to get wrapped. I know I'm going to get wrapped over the knuckles for this. And even though database is great, I know most learners out there don't like Access, but that's okay. It's okay. Don't feel bad about it. You're not the only one. Okay, right. So there's an example of our integrated software. You don't necessarily have to mention the version, but just the fact that it's the Microsoft Office suite. Right. Licensing agreements. Well, this is one that always comes up. When you install a piece of software, when you download something and you go in next. Yeah, just pay attention to this. These agreements are legally binding contracts between you as the user and the software company. These license agreements are called EULAs, or End User License Agreements. So when they ask you, what is an end user license agreement? It's an agreement between you and the software company in terms of how to use their software. And you'll usually see this. Most of you, I know some of you would have installed things like iTunes. And iTunes, always mentioned, has the longest license agreement out there. When you click next, you are agreeing to that. If that license agreement says that they're going to come and collect your child one day when you have a child, and when the kid is like 10 years old, they're going to come and collect it, it's a legally binding contract that you've agreed to. So when they come and do that, you can't say, no. What did you do? You clicked next, didn't you? So you agreed to that. Just saying. Just saying. I know I'm using the horrible examples, but it's to make the point. Okay. Sarah from Durban, welcome. So software piracy, and I know most of you are guilty of this. But we're not gonna, we're not here to judge anyone. Software piracy, it's the illegal installation, copying, and distribution of, when we talk about proprietary software, we're talking about software that is bought, right? Software that you have to pay for. So when you are getting Microsoft Office from a friend via a flash drive, just understand that you are committing software piracy, okay? Most software, and this is why Office has moved. Yes, Tate. I know. Most software now requires you to actually activate it online as a means to actually crack down on this. So it can result in heavy fines and even jail time. And guys, look here, let's be honest. Nobody wants to go and sit in jail because they had an illegal copy of Microsoft Office. I mean, really, I don't want to be that guy sitting there and everyone's asking me, well, why are you here? And saying, yeah, because I installed an illegal copy of Microsoft Office. I mean, no, man, really. Okay. Then, importantly, we have a single user license. Now, this generally means that you may only install one copy of the software. You can also make a backup. So, one copy on the PC plus a backup. A site license, because you can imagine if I'm paying 1,000 Rand for a single user license and I've got a school with 100 PCs, now I'm going to be paying like 100,000 Rand. So I can get it cheaper via a site license, which allows me unrestricted installations within the company. So I buy one license for my school and I can install it as many times as I want to on all the devices in my school. Okay. Also referred to as volume licensing. So be careful if they use site license or volume licensing, either way. All right, just know what they're talking about. It is expensive to buy, but it is cheaper in the long run. Right, it's going to be cheaper than buying a single copy for each one. This is one, and again, guys, a lot of what I'm doing here with the terms is on my TikTok account. So please go and check that out. Go and follow that, because things like freeware, shareware, all these terms, I'm using TikTok specifically to guide you with explanations on terms. Okay, so freeware, fully functioning software that's free to download, use, distribute. You can do whatever you want to with it. It's completely free. Shareware, I can download it free, but it's going to be free for a specific time, like a trial version. Like I'll tell you, you can download the software and then use it for 14 days. Then you use it, and once that 14 days is up, you would need to pay for it. Then we've got open source software. Now, the difference between open source and freeware is the fact that open source, like Linux and that, I can download it, use it, distribute it. But here's the key difference. I can modify the actual code. So I can modify how the program works. There are advantages and disadvantages to this. Just know at least one or two. Will they ask questions out of the prelims? Amy, generally yes. We do find similar questions coming through, and that's why I'm going through all of this. So some disadvantages of open source is you've got no guarantee of the quality. The versions might be different. You've got no support as well. It's not as widely used. So those are just some of the disadvantages. Let me see. Will you mention the product key? Yes, I'm going to touch on the product key later. Okay, then copyright. Please remember these terms as well. Copyright refers to the legal right to make copies. Okay. Again, I'm not here to fight with you. Intellectual property is a broader concept. It recognizes the ownership of the person. We've seen this in music. Haven't you seen that some of these new artists have created music and then the original guys sue them because they're saying, hang on, but what you were using as a beat was actually my intellectual property. Like I created that back in the 80s. And then they find that, yes, this person did actually do this. The new artist had no right to use it. And so they get sued for that. So, yeah, just a side note there. Okay. Non-profit organization, the Creative Commons, that promotes the sharing and free use of knowledge and products legally. Okay. Grade 12s, you must know that. I saw that come up.
So is it like open source type of thing?
No, it won't be, because remember, open source, you can modify the code. So their mission here is just to promote software that can be used freely. They don't necessarily want people to be fiddling on how it actually works. Compression software. Grade 12 prelims, the prac, they asked you to compress. Do you remember that? Yes, they asked you to compress that. In other words, make it smaller. But when you compress, you are not damaging the file. So you literally right click on the file and you say send to, and it says compressed. And then you just click that. And that's it. That's all you needed to do. Okay, so there you can see the difference between a file and one that has been zipped. It's been made smaller. Then backups, you need to know your backups as well. What a backup is, why we have backups in place. Okay, please remember your backups are there to create a copy of what you already have somewhere else. It's different to archiving. Okay, then drivers, please just understand, when it comes to your drivers, it is a piece of software. It works between your PC and the device. So for example, a printer. If we've got our PC over here, the driver tells the PC what to do with this piece of hardware that's plugged in. So it's software that allows the computer to communicate with hardware devices. Why does it say the file cannot be compressed? I'll have to actually see that, because there could be a problem with the actual folder. Could be an issue with the rights on the folder as well. So it can be any of those things. Okay, then the next section that came up was the match the column, right? And here you can see I'm giving you a few examples. What is the key to conquering the match the column? The key is to understand your terms. If you don't know what column B means, If you don't know what those terms mean, how are you going to match the column? So it's important to know your terms. There you can see, there's another one. Again, this is from June. This is from the prelims last year, the finals last year, the prelims this year, June this year as well. If you don't understand the concepts, grade 12s, grade 11s, grade 10s, you're not going to be able to deal with this. And there's another one. Okay, you see normal things. RAM, ROM. Yes, 100% correct. The strategy around this would be to look at these terms, identify the ones that you know. Like, you know what RAM is, you know what an antivirus software is, you know what AI is, it's artificial intelligence, you know what OCR is, your optical character recognition. Once you identify the things you know, go to the column and then check if there's anything that matches up with it. Tick those things off. Tick those things off. Nobody said you can't touch the paper, right? If you need to ask for scrap paper, ask for scrap paper so you can do that. But do whatever you need to. Okay. So I want to touch on these terms that came up in the prelim. First of all, deep web. There was a question talking about deep web and the dark web. Now, when we talk about the deep web, it's that part of the World Wide Web that's not discoverable by means of standard search engines. In other words, things like your personal email. I mean, you can't go into Google and go check your personal email. No. Your electronic bank statements. No. Those are things that are located on what they call the deep web. The dark web is that part of the internet that's specifically or intentionally hidden. And it actually requires a specific browser. I know you get Tor, and there's, I think, Onion, something like that as well. So yes, shaping, throttling, I'm going through all that. So I hope that clears that up. Then printer queuing, we did touch on that earlier. Spooling basically means that another document is printing and yours is waiting in place in that queue. So we've got the queue, and then the spooling is where they actually kept together, you know, the one is busy loading while the other one is printing. Okay, please do let me know. Are you guys okay? Mm-hmm. You sure? I know this is going to be a ton of stuff today. Right, ransomware. They usually use this in a scenario to say that a company's been hit with a ransomware attack. What does that mean? It means that it's malicious software, in other words, harmful software, a harmful program that's been designed to block access to a computer system until the ransom has been paid. So they're holding the company at ransom. You won't get access to your data until you pay. And this is usually done in crypto. Okay? This is why crypto gets a bad name, and it shouldn't, because it's it's okay, it's decent. People just don't understand it. Then we have the next four, very important. This is Carlton, this is answering your question here. Internet, shaping, throttling, capped and uncapped. Now, people don't read the fine print when it comes to buying an internet line. They just say, oh, there's a 50 meg line, and they get all excited and let's go. Let's get internet. And then they see at certain times things are happening. It's getting a bit slower. What's going on? Internet shaping refers to the lowering of the amount of bandwidth the ISP has to the customer. So they might tell you that your line is going to be shaped during peak times. Now, your peak time would be somewhere between 5 o'clock and 8 o'clock. When people get home, they want to connect, sit and watch something. And what they'll do is they'll actually give priority. That's the word. They'll give priority to certain things. So they might give priority to downloads. They might give less priority to uploads or things like that. Okay? And that's how they then shape it. When we talk about throttling, think about me throttling myself. What am I going to do? I'm going to choke the life out of I'm not choking a part of it. I'm choking all the life out of me. So this is when your ISP is limiting your connection in terms of the bandwidth. Now, sometimes this happens when you've used up all your data. Then they give you a certain amount extra. So they end up throttling you because maybe you've actually used too much. Okay. So I hope that sorts that out, Carlton. And then we've got capped and uncapped. We know capped is a limit on the amount of data we have, and uncapped means that we don't have any limit. This is why when they talk about internet lines, it can be uncapped and shaped, or uncapped and unshaped. And you're going to pay more for those lines. Malware, we did say it's malicious software. That's the collective term. An example of malware could be viruses. And obviously this is software designed to cause harm to your PC. End of story. Okay, so you could have Trojans, you could have worms. Those are all examples of viruses. Your virtual assistant, it's an application that understands the natural voice commands and completes tasks for the user. So that might come up with your software program, and they might give you options. When you go to some websites and there's like an assistant that comes up, how can we help you? Or, what are you looking to do? Whereas a chatbot is a computer program designed to simulate conversation with human users, especially in things like WhatsApp and like Telegram. You'll have these chatbots come up and they'll give you options, but you are actually talking to this. Yes.
So would Siri be your virtual assistant or your chatbot?
Virtual assistant, because remember they're saying it recognizes natural language voice commands. So that's the key there. Okay. Lesedi, yes, it will be. It will be. Are there any other ways you can know when you've been throttled? The main way, Ricardo, that you're going to know is you're going to see your internet line is just going to completely slow down, and usually by, sometimes like 50% plus. So just take note of those things. Alternatively, you can always also find out what the agreement is that you are with on your ISP. Okay, then we've got an IP4 address. IP, remember, stands for Internet Protocol. Our version 4 address. We're talking about an IP address. Guys, this is a 32-bit number that identifies you, or in other words, your device, cell phone, whatever it is, on a network. And that can be the internet as a whole as well. IP version 6 is just a longer one. Okay? All you need to know is that one is 32-bit, that's our IP4, and our IP version 6 is 128 bits. The next two items, very important, are RFID tags. They did have a scenario around this, the difference between RFID and NFC. So just know our RFID, these are small devices that use radio frequencies to transmit data, mainly to track and identify objects, animals, and people. Bearing in mind, it is limited to one-way communication. Okay, so just make a note of that. NFC, our near-field communication. This is technology that allows, again, also wireless data transmission over short distances using radio waves. So they're both using radio waves. It's just that near-field communication, the distance is a lot shorter than RFID. And it plays a huge role in access control and mobile payment fields. So when you're doing your snap scan and these type of things, they're going to be using this sort of technology. Your RFID tags, like they're saying, I'm talking about tracking. When people, run marathons and they can have a little RFID tag, that's how they can identify if the person is placed first, 50th, 150th, whatever the case may be. More items that came up. Geotagging. This refers to the process of adding geographical coordinates to your pics, to your media. So that could be a message. It could be a WhatsApp that you've sent. It could be a picture. It could be a video that you've sent. Most of us don't realize that these features are activated on our phones. So just bear that in mind. The one time we actually know that is when we want to check in on social media. Yeah, that's when we know. The digital divide, this refers to the gap that exists between people who have access to modern info and tech and those who don't. Okay? We know what a hotspot is, the one that's important at the bottom there, telecommuting. A lot of the grade 12s got this one wrong. It refers to the practice of working from home by making use of the internet, email, and telephone. Now, they asked it the other way around. What is the term that refers to the practice of working at home by making use of the internet, email, and telephone? And that was telecommuting. Yes, geotagging was in. That's exactly why I've put it in. Can't I, as the ISP subscriber, shape my own internet? No, that's going to be coming from the ISP itself. Okay. However, I know with certain routers, You can actually log into the router and set up like a guest account with limited things on it. So in that way you can do some of that as well. More terms that came up: cross-platform. Another one that a lot of you got wrong. This means that the product or software can work across multiple types of platforms and devices. So if I tell you there is an app like WhatsApp, it is cross-platform. It can work on Android devices, Apple devices. It can work on the Windows desktop, anything like that. It is cross-platform. Another term that came up, hot swapping, refers to the replacement of components in our computer without switching it off. This is why we talk about it being hot swappable. And then your scan disk, it's a Windows utility built in, used to check your hard disk for errors. Now please don't confuse this. All this software does is it checks for errors and corrects those problems. It does not speed up the PC. It is not there to enhance the performance of the computer. It's there to check for errors on your hard disk and try and sort it out. Okay? That's what it's there for. Another big one that came up, the difference between web-based mail and ISP-based mail. Please, here's the difference. Our web-based mail is accessed using a web browser like Google Chrome. Google is not a web browser. It is a search engine. I don't know how many times I have to say that. So a web browser, Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, Firefox, Safari, these are web browsers. What does a web browser do? It's there to help you navigate over the internet. Okay? So we use a web browser to access our web-based mail. We must be online, and it's usually free of charge. So think of Gmail. You didn't pay anything for your Gmail address. You access it via their app, and you have to be online to do that. ISP-based mail is usually on your local computer, can be accessed without being online, but there is a monthly charge to that. Okay. Then some of the extended hardware concepts. I know as we go through now, there's a lot that's going to repeat, so we're just going to go through that. Just know what your touchpad is, which is basically your built-in mouse. A lot of people don't use it. Just some other examples of pointing devices. Again, things that give instruction to the PC. These gestures, we know this. We know it all too well. What's important here is old accelerometer. When we see this term, everybody thinks it's got to do with the speed of a phone. What does it do? It detects movement. It changes the orientation of the screen. You know the fact that you can take a picture here and do that, right? That's the accelerometer that does that. Okay, just saying. Okay, our gaming devices, we know our joysticks, our game controllers, steering wheels, our digital cameras. Please just know the fact that our digital cameras, we can now take pictures, we can take video with it, we can see it immediately. It's got better resolution, those basics around there. All right, then our scanners. You have flatbed and sheet-fed scanners. Now, flatbed is what you see over there. It's flat and it closes because you put the paper in and it closes like you're going to bed, right? You're getting into your bed, pull up the duvet, and there you go. Our sheet-fed is when it actually feeds it into the PC. Sorry, not PC, printer itself, okay? So there we just need to know that. It scans the images into the computer, largely replaced by the use of cameras on mobile devices. Most people are doing it from their cell phones. And QR codes also give us quick access to web addresses. So the fact that you're using your phone to scan a QR code, that is scanning. Okay, that is scanning. We've got barcode readers. We know what these things do, people. So just know your benefits there of speed and accuracy. Okay, then we're moving to biometrics as well. Remember, what is biometrics? We were using a part of our body, something biological, to gain access or as a security method. So if you've got a biometric scanner, this one is now scanning in their fingerprint, which is unique to the individual, and that's how it's going to unlock the PC. Most of us have it on our phones. So there you can see I've got my fingerprint there, and I will just scan and then it will open. All right, then we've got card input as well. That's also one of them. RFID, we've now spoken about those tags, and there are a number of others as well. The important one there is OCR, Optical Character Recognition. That means that I can take a piece of paper that's got, printed language on it, so a normal document with text, and I can scan it into the computer, and what it's going to do is this software will identify, it will recognize the characters, and then what is it going to do? It's going to convert it into an editable form. So it will convert into a Word document that I can actually go and edit. That's what the software does. Are we together? Okay? So our OCR software allows me to take a document, scan it in, and convert it into something that I can edit as well. Okay, our video and audio input, we know we can get that. We know we've got audio, what it can be used for as well. This is important for, especially when you're dealing with people who have limitations or impairments. So just know what that does. We know what sound is used for. So I'm not going to worry too much with that. Most of us know our data projectors. It's there to do what I'm doing on the screen behind me here, to actually project what I'm doing. And we see we've got different types of projectors. One of the important features is known as the lumens. The lumens, the higher that number is, that refers to the image quality even in normal light. So when I've got the blinds open here and I've got normal light coming through, and my projector has a high number of lumens, I'll still get a nice, crisp, clear picture. Then this one came up in the prelims, the multifunction printer. And they asked, what is a multifunction printer? And a lot of grade 12s couldn't tell me what that is. And all a multifunction printer is a printer that performs more than one function. For example, it can print, scan, and copy. That's it. Okay? That's all. It's not a complicated thing. Okay. Sorry, I'll turn Zanele. I'll just turn that audio up. I hope it's better now. It should be. Okay, then we've got our fax machine. Okay, Ricardo, what are you referring to now? Did I show something on the screen here with regards to RGB? Oh, okay. So that's referring to how the image is actually getting through. So obviously my LCD is now my liquid crystal display. My DLP is a different quality projector. So all of those refer to the type of quality that's going to come through the projector and be projected on the particular board. Okay. Where am I? Okay. We've been through our CDs, Blu-rays. Just know what an optical drive is. That's probably one of the important bits there. Yeah, memory cards, that's fine. This will fall under just general maintenance when it comes to our computers. So I know most of you are okay with that. We've looked at our motherboard and the different ports that we have. Just know the following. What does our CPU do? First of all, it's a socket. It's a chip that plugs into the socket on the motherboard. It performs the mathematical calculations that's needed for all the instructions on the PC, and it's measured in gigahertz. Okay, there you can see how small that actually is. Then our RAM and our ROM, it's what comes up often. RAM, random access memory. This is where I store all the instructions. It's temporary, it's volatile. When I switch off the PC, everything's wiped out. Okay? Whereas ROM is more permanent. It's read-only memory, relatively small. But in terms of the PC booting up, this is where those specific instructions are stored, and you'll see as we go through. Mojaji, please explain Blu-ray. So Blu-ray is a type of disc like your CD and your DVD. The only difference is it used to play very high quality movies, so it can store a lot more info on it than a normal CD or DVD. Okay, so before I go further, I just want to pause for 2 or 3 minutes, get a drink of water, guys, before I continue. Okay, so I'll be back in about 2 or 3 minutes. Right, we are back. Okay, so we still have a lot to get through. We've got about an hour and a half. I did say I'm finishing at 12, and I will finish at 12. I know my learners are laughing at me, but it's fine. Okay, so how ICT influences our lives. Again, those are things you can just go through. We know it influences what we do in terms of our work, in terms of how we communicate. I mean, that's completely changed from when I was that age in the photo. I didn't even know what a cell phone was at that stage. In fact, there were no cell phones at that stage, yeah. I remember being in matric and getting a Nokia 5110. Yeah! I was so happy with that because not only was it a 5110, but I could change the cover. Yeah! I was so happy with this phone. Brilliant thing about it was it could fall, break into pieces, I could put it back together, and it would be fine.
Oh, it was like those
Yeah, and what do our phones look like today? Just saying. Okay, it's changed the way we access information. We can see, you know, via all these different platforms, and even in terms of our leisure, with most of us sitting watching Netflix these days, and all the different streaming sites as well. It can obviously, you know, save us money as well, where it's, the Samsung gang, where we've had an impact on the home office, so people can work from home as well. And it's even been used by schools. A lot of us know this. And by us as teachers, I mean, what I'm doing now is the impact of ICT as well. And of course, you guys using the different technology that's out there as well. So those are just some practical things that they mentioned. Right, here's the important bit. Computer criminals. Okay, I know none of you are computer criminals. You do not try to steal people's identity. Okay, you do not spread false information. That's being part of an identity thief, and the whole idea is to commit a crime. So they don't steal your ID to do nothing with it. They want to actually steal your details in order to commit a crime. So bear that in mind when you do talk about this. Scammers and phishers, what do they try and do? How do they try and steal your money? By phishing. You know, sending you that SMS that says somebody's died, you've inherited money, you need to get in contact with us. That is phishing. Okay? Fake websites, fake virus alarms. I've seen this on computers before. And bogus lottery winnings. Your cell phone number has won. But guys, I never entered a competition. So how can I win or win the lotto if I've never played the lotto? Common sense. Okay? Use your common sense. Employees at companies can be computer criminals. Zanele, that's the DDoS, that's the denial of service attacks. Okay, I will touch on that as well. I'm going to make a note of that. Actually, didn't have that on my list. Thank you. Okay. Employees have the easiest access to computers, computer equipment. They can sometimes steal the equipment, damage the equipment. It sounds terrible, but these things do happen. Some of them can take revenge because they are fed up with their boss and they decide that they're going to delete all of the data. And there have been cases like that. Just understand, you're a computer criminal if you're doing things like that. Now, these two terms, a hacker and a cracker, two totally different things. Okay? Two totally different things. A hacker hacks mainly for recognition. A cracker does so because they've got criminal intent. Okay? They want to do something bad. That guy, Julian Assange, he's the guy of WikiLeaks. When they were doing a little documentary on him, they were actually mentioning that, or he mentioned that he was 14 when he hacked into the Pentagon just to show his friends that he could do it. For no other reason. No criminal intent, nothing like that. He just wanted to show that he can. That's your hacker, not your cracker. Then you've also got organized computer crime. These guys running spam businesses, some stealing secrets from companies to sell it to others. Unfortunately, those who are selling copied DVDs and movies and things like that in the street corners, guys, I don't have to say anything further than that. Okay. Then we move on to the true and false sections that you'll find in your papers. Please, does using work resources for personal reasons mean that you are a computer criminal? Ooh, Zanele, do you want me to give you the honest answer?
No, I never want to know.
The honest answer, the real answer is going to be yes, because you are at work to do your work. Anything else, if you don't have permission to do your personal stuff, I wouldn't maybe go as far as to say like a computer criminal, but I mean, you are using the company's resources for your own personal stuff. So just be careful. Just be careful of that.
Wait,
Yes.
So, with my devices, I have two profiles, one for work and one for school.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when I want to take my personal stuff and put it into work because it relates to my school stuff, like recording.
That's fine.
and then vice versa, like from work to my personal. Is that still?
No. That would be sort of okay. You sort of be like borderline there. When we talk about that, I'm talking about, or I know what Zanella is referring to. Let's say, for example, I'll give you a typical one. My church is having an activity this weekend, and they need to print programs. And then I'm like, yeah, no, it's fine. We have a printer at school, and I come here and I print like 150 programs for the church. What am I doing? Even though I'm trying to do something good, but I'm using the school's resources, their printer, their toner, their paper, their ink. It's theirs. They pay for it. Now I'm using it for my own gain. So I shouldn't be doing that unless, like I say, you've got permission to do so. But now I'm being very technical on this. And like I say, you either want the real answer or you don't. And sometimes we don't like hearing that. Okay, so with true or false, please remember the following. If something is true, like I always say, it is true. Okay? You don't need to justify it. But when it comes to being false, you will need to say why it is false. Or in this case, you'll need to change the underlined word. So here, for example, you need to change the underlined word. Here, you'll need to choose the correct one out of the two. There we see you've got to change the underlined word. Like throttling causes certain internet services to be given priority. Now we know it's not throttling. It is shaping. Okay? So all you'll do is you'll say false and you'll pop in the appropriate word. So please, again, it's something that comes up over and over and over. Here are again a couple of sample true or false questions where you only, when it's true, you leave it as true. When it's false, you say it is false and justify it. If you don't, you won't get the mark. And I know some grade 12s just put false. And they didn't justify it, which means they get so much, 0. Okay? So please don't do that. There's some more examples. But again, guys, as you go through this, you can just have a look at that. Okay, then we go into system technologies. Whoo, here we go. Here we go. So this is a big one, dealing with the specs of a PC. Now, what are we seeing in front of us? Look at all of this. What does it mean to you? Because one of the first things they'll ask you is this a desktop or a laptop? Let me know in the comments, is this a desktop or a laptop, and how do we know? What is this referred to? What does this first line refer to? This here is the resolution. It's full HD. This is the size of the monitor. Okay. Does it use the word monitor? No. Okay. So that's clue number 1. Line number 2. Okay. I've got laptop coming through. Now, how do we know it's a laptop? Do we see anything here relating to a power supply? Do we see anything that says PSU or power supply? No. Do we see anything that says monitor? No. It says display. Look at your phone. What do they say? They say the display is 6-inch. Okay, built in. What display is built in when it comes to our computers? A laptop or a desktop? The laptop, right? That display is built into the actual device, whereas a desktop has a peripheral known as your monitor. Right? Remember those peripherals we spoke about? So that's my first thing. Then they'll ask with the second line, the Intel iCore. Who's the manufacturer of the CPU? Intel. What's the model? Core i7. What's the speed of the CPU? 3.5 megahertz. Are we together with that so far? Right? Yes, the fact that it's saying 4-cell battery, Ricardo, that's also telling me, what do our laptops work off? Batteries. Okay? It's got a built-in card reader. It's got Bluetooth, 2 USB ports, 1 HDMI port, a fingerprint reader. Do you see that on your desktops?
No.
Okay? No, you don't. No optical drive. What does that mean? It hasn't got a drive that takes CDs, DVDs, or Blu-ray.
So that's still like your laptop.
There we go. More clues. Right? A 1 terabyte hard drive and then 16 gigs of RAM. One of the things that they do ask here is, which one is our primary storage area and which one is our secondary storage. Our primary is always RAM and our secondary is our hard drive. Okay. Then we've got our operating system, Windows 10 Home, so that's fine. All okay with that? I'm going to go through 1 or 2 examples. Ports of the PC, again. This is important to know. So you want to know the main ones are just identifying things like your USB ports, your sound card, your network port, and then your VGA, which is not on here, because this one, what does this one have? This one's got serial port, they've got a Firewire port, that's for video transfer. So these are just a few of the types of ports that you get. You must be able to identify these things. Here's another one. These are your LAN ports. In other words, these are built-in network cards. That NIC, or network interface controller, those are things that are built in over there. It's got 4 USB ports. There's my VGA. It's just that it's a different color. And that's my serial port for an external device as well. You can see again what some of them look like. A lot of them are color coded these days. I've got these ports in front in my PC here as well. USB, and one for a mic to get input, and one for headphones to give me output as well. Okay, I'm gonna write that one down, Zanele. Thank you for that. Where is this pen? Okay, cache. And DDoS. Okay, cool. Then our specs of the monitor. I'm going to go into some detail on this as well. You can see what some of these specs look like. Okay, the resolution, the brightness, the size of the monitor, all these different things. I'm going to go into this as we go through that. So here are the main things you must know when it comes to a monitor. And guys, this does apply to your TVs as well. Your contrast ratio that they talk about. There you can see our contrast is 1000 to 1. This refers to the ratio between your lumens, in other words, the visible light to the human eye, of the brightest white and the darkest black that a monitor can produce. Okay. Your resolution, we know that refers to the quality. Our aspect ratio, we know, where have they got it now? No, they've just got that. Okay, they don't say whether it's a 16:9. But it's that 16:9 or 4:3. That's the relationship between the width and the height of the display. We'll see some examples. And then our refresh rate as well. This refers to the number of times per second an image refreshes on the screen. You know, when you watch the news, and I know most of you don't watch the news, but when you do watch the news and they show computers, you can see on the monitor, it looks like the picture's changing all the time, right? That's the refresh rate. So if you've got a screen with a 144 megahertz refresh rate, it means that the screen will update 144 times per second. The more it does that, the better it is for things like games, and video editing and things like that. It results in a much smoother image coming through. Okay, this is the back of a monitor. Typically here we can see this, I know, is an HDMI monitor. How do I know that? Number one, here's my power. So that's got nothing to do with HDMI. Okay? That's my power. Over here, this monitor, I can connect it via VGA to my PC or laptop or whatever it is, and HDMI. With HDMI, remember, when I connect via VGA, is it audio and video? VGA does only what? It transfers only?
Video.
Only video. That's why it's a video graphics adapter. So when I connect VGA from my PC to my screen, it's only going to send through video. When I connect HDMI, video and audio. So my monitor must have audio, and you will be able to see at the back of one of these monitors, they've actually got speakers. On the screen here, you can see, here are the speakers. So if someone connects the laptop via HDMI to the screen, the sound will come out of the screen. You'll have to actually go and change the settings to make sure it comes out of your speakers. There again, there's some more. There you can see contrast ratio, response time, refresh rate, all of those things. Guys, these are things that in the real world makes a difference, especially when you're buying monitors for your PC, gaming, or you want to get a nice TV. These are things you want to look at. And there you can see our dimensions as well. These are some of the modern video ports, USB-C, which we are all familiar with, right? Charging your phone, okay? Your display port and HDMI. So these are just some of the...
Is your display port your VGA port?
No. VGA, remember, is a different one. It's that. It's this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then what would be your display port?
Display port is a different port on its own. And that one also takes through the video. Yes.
So what is the physical difference between the HDMI and the VGA ports?
Okay. So your physical difference, you can see here. Your VGA will have pins in it. Okay. Your HDMI does not have pins. I think I have. Here's an HDMI cable plug in here. So you can see I've got no pins in it. It's just one fit in that slots in.
Okay. But so what does it display if it's not the VGA?
It does exactly the same thing. It's just a different port. Because some people want to move away from VGA because of the pins. Because when you damage those pins in a VGA port, it can damage the entire cable. So yeah, that's why they're sort of trying to phase it out. That's why you'll see a lot of laptops don't even have the port on them. Okay. Ricardo, I'm not too sure about that if we're going to use video display terminal. I think it should be fine, but let's just stick to monitor. It's just going to be easier to get the mark. So there's another list of specs. Is this a laptop or a desktop? There's one important feature here. One important feature that tells me. Nope, not the motherboard. There's just one. There we go. What does PSU stand for? Power Supply Unit. Okay, my power supply is found in a desktop. Thought I had one laying around here. So when you see that power supply unit, that is for your desktop. Here's another one. Laptop or desktop? Do we see anything here about a power supply unit? No, we don't. There again, no optical drive. Full-size keyboard. They mentioned this is a Lenovo IdeaPad, so it's one of those like the Google Chromebooks, similar to that. So yes, that's how we begin to identify. Here again, what do you see? A PSU, right? So that's telling us this is a desktop. And guys, this is how we get used to identifying these things. Here are some typical questions as well. Give 2 reasons why portable computers are increasingly being designed not to include optical drives. We just spoke about this. The reason, it's very practical. Do we still use CDs and DVDs? People hardly use that. It's easier to use your flash drives. So it's easier to use those devices. You're working with a wired mouse and it freezes, fails to respond. Assume the mouse itself is clean and not damaged. Well, it could be the port on the PC. It could be the cable itself. There could be an issue with the driver, any of those type of things. But these are the types of questions that you see. This is something that came up and continues to come up. Okay, Carlton, that PSU 500 watt, it's indicating that power supply supplies 500 watts of power to the PC. So obviously if you've got a high powered PC, you'd have a power supply with a higher wattage. What are these things that we see in here? This is our headphones. Okay, this is, you could call it a gaming headset as well. This is our cabling. But what type of cabling? This is shielded twisted pair. How do I know that? Are there twisted pairs over here? What is a pair? Pair is 2. Okay. Are they twisted? Yes, they are. You see this silver jacket over here? that's shielding that. That is how I know this is shielded twisted pair. This icon's referring to online storage. There's my power supply. That's what my power supply looks like. That I only find in a desktop, not in a laptop. Okay, that usually indicates I've got a hotspot. This is my ROM. I've got my motherboard. I've got my biometric scanner here as well, scanning the eye. Here I've got a dedicated graphics card. I've got a router. Again, my motherboard. I've got my RAM here as well. So do you see how knowing the concepts and being able to identify the stuff physically, you need to know both of them. Ricardo, what will happen if we just call it a cable? You will get it wrong. Okay, you will get it wrong. You have to be specific. Okay, so when it comes to our printers, they mention a few things. DPI. When it comes to a monitor, we deal with resolution. When it comes to a printer, we deal with DPI, dots per inch. The higher that number, the better the quality of the image that we are going to be getting. So if you look at this printer, what type of printer is this? First of all, they're saying this device can print, scan, copy, and fax.
Is it a multifunctional printer?
Beautiful. It is a multifunction printer. Do I know whether it's laser or not?
No.
Okay. At this point, I'm not too worried about that. The first thing I want to know is it's a multifunction printer. Now it mentions to me that it can connect wirelessly. It's got an Ethernet or a network port on it as well. It can print A4, manual duplex. Yes.
So when we get there, can you please explain the difference between internet and intranet?
Yeah, I'll do that. Up to 20,000 pages. Now, when we see that, what should we be saying this is? A laser printer. Okay, so now this is how I know, just from the specs that I've identified, it's a multifunction laser printer. Oh, then the big one. SSD or HDD, in other words, our solid state drive or our normal hard drive. Okay, Sbo, when it comes to this, just understand the following. The term USB refers to, yes, by all means, it refers to the port. So that's the port that you are plugging into. That's why when you talk about a flash drive, you've got to say a flash drive. You can't say a USB drive. All right? So just be aware of that. So I've brought this in so that you can see the physical difference between your hard drive and your SSD. You can see in your hard drive, you've got a bunch of moving parts. You've got an actuator arm, all of this type of thing. Whereas your SSD is smaller, no moving parts. That means it can operate much faster as well. Darren is just answering Zanele there. Cache is used to store temporary information that needs to be retrieved so that the info can be gathered quicker. Thank you. Thank you, Darren. You're saving me time there as well. Yes.
So you know how now you've just given us a whole scope, like inside what an HDD is.
Mm-hmm.
Would we ever get this in an exam?
What, identifying the parts like
No,
this?
identifying
No.
the parts, like
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
That would be like grade 10 and 11, or grade 10, just the hard drive side. When you get to grade 12, they want you to see if you can look at the benefits of one over the other. So they want you to know that the SSD is faster than the traditional hard drive. The normal hard drive's got a longer lifespan. It is cheaper, whereas the SSD is more expensive. Your SSD comes in smaller sizes as well. So you don't, I mean, you're going to pay far more if you buy a 500 gig SSD as opposed to a 500 gig normal hard drive. I mean, there's going to be a huge difference. But it is shock resistant because, again, there are no moving parts. The HDD has more storage capacity. Yes, it does. And you pay less for it as well. Okay, so now we go into networks. Now, at this point, we should know what a network is. Two or more computing devices connected through some sort of media for the purpose of sharing information. Okay, And we touched on this. Remember our local area networks? What is a local area network? It's a network confined to a specific geographical area. Your global area network is a network that spans globally. Why do we have networks? What are some of the advantages? Okay, and this you can go through because you should know these things. We can share, promotes fast, efficient communication. We can share hardware resources. Like in our lab here, we have one printer that's connected to all the PCs. So we don't have to buy a printer for each and every PC. We can share files, right? So on a server, we can access all of our files from whichever PC we are actually busy with. And there's a few examples. The centralization of data, in other words, data is in one central location. It is an advantage, it's also a bit of a disadvantage, because if that central location burns down or is destroyed, yeah, sort of lose that. So you do want, that's why backups are important. Okay. Then we have flexible access when it comes to our networks as well. We know we can access a lot of these examples from wherever we are as long as we have some data. So those are just some of the advantages, guys. You only need to know like 2, maybe 3 of those advantages. And you can choose which ones, you actually favor. Then some disadvantages. Again, you also need to know at least 2 here. Can be expensive. You need a qualified person to actually manage that network. And those are just some of the disadvantages that come with it as well. Okay, then our network basics. We're looking at our PAN. So we said earlier, the PAN is the personal area network. This is a network organized, it's basically between like you and your phone. So you sitting with your phone and your laptop and connecting those. That's your personal area network. Okay, the range is only a few meters and you can go through those advantages and disadvantages. You can see the person set up there with his personal area network. Your home area network, a network within the home. Okay, and you can again look at the advantages and disadvantages there. Security can be the main issue. Why? Because you are the problem. Did you know that?
I always knew, but I didn't.
I'm gonna get to that. Don't worry. There's a particular term I'm waiting for. Then setting up a small network. What do you need? You can look at some of the hardware components you'll need when setting up.
Isn't this like small office, home office?
Small office, home office user, similar here as well. So we'll need things like a computing device, either a switch if we are in an environment like here at school, or a router. But both HDD and SSD can have the same. Yes. Look, Darren, when it comes to the capacity, you can have a normal hard drive having 500 gigs and an SSD. It's just that the price difference is going to be massive on there. Where are we? Yes. Okay. Most routers today include a built-in switch. All right. So let's look at some of the other connection methods, wirelessly or with cables. We know most of this. Just understand that we can connect wirelessly, we can connect via Bluetooth, and that device over there is a network interface card. On most PCs, it is built in, as you can see over there, or with this is an external card that's there as well. Okay, so there you can see with your PAN, Bluetooth is the most common means. Doesn't always have to be that, but it is. And then with your hand, both wireless and wired connections are used. Most of us have a router at home that gives us internet connectivity. Okay, so there they just mention our connection methods with wired now. Generally we'll use unshielded twisted pair, but we do also use shielded twisted pair. One of the ports, as you'll see on here, one of the cables will plug into the actual switch, and the other one will plug into the physical PC. So when you're in a computer lab at your school, this is how they generally connect. Okay, a lot of schools also connect via wireless, which is, or it has its own advantages there as well. Just understand that wireless uses radio waves to provide network access. Then you'll also need software. In other words, your operating system that you have on your laptop or desktop or whatever it is, it needs to be able to accommodate or have that feature of network connectivity. Now, this is important because sometimes when you buy your laptops and they tell you you've got like Windows Basic, like Windows 10 Basic, it doesn't come with that functionality. On some of them, it doesn't even allow you to change the background or screensaver. So you need to make sure that the operating system you have can actually accommodate that. All right, then connecting to the internet, we've spoken about our IP addresses. When we connect, everyone has a specific IP address. This is how they track people. You know, when they on the movies, when somebody's trying to hack and then they try to trace where the person is, they do that via the IP address because everybody has a unique address when they connect to the internet. And to do that, you need an ISP, even Vodacom, you know, MTN, any of these guys, they are all ISPs. If they provide you functionality to the internet or connectivity to it, they're an ISP. Okay? Now with our ISP, we know what they do. They sell you internet access for a fee, whether you are buying data once off or whether you are on a contract. That is what is going to be there for you. And then again, you can just have a look through wired and wireless and see the difference there. ADSL, just bear the following in mind. This is something that came up. ADSL is a permanent connection to the internet using a telephone line. So all of us used to have telephone lines. Then ADSL was a permanent connection using that existing line. Fiber now has its own lines. And this now allows the data to be transmitted through glass fiber tubes, and it's actually light that's being transmitted. So this is why fiber is so much faster than ADSL. Some sort of the services that an ISP provides, it provides you connection to the internet, it provides web hosting, and provides email hosting as well. So those are 3 examples. Okay, so just know ADSL is faster than fiber. ADSL uses your existing telephone lines to transfer that data, whereas fiber uses light. Not only internet connection. So like I say, they provide you with an internet connection, they provide you with email hosting, web hosting, and spam as well, spam filters to prevent unnecessary emails from coming through. All right, here we look at the World Wide Web, know what www stands for, know the difference between www, which is a service that runs on the internet. A website is a group of related pages, okay, stored on the same web address. And a website, that's something that usually is on the internet and belongs to a particular company or organization or person. So just know those. They show us the structure of websites, but we don't need to know much about that. Oh, just know what a hyperlink is, please. Know what a hyperlink is and what it does. Okay, it allows us to be able to click on that and take us somewhere else. You need to know what a web server is as well. This is a computer that hosts a website. So when you go to a website, you are actually logging onto a computer somewhere else that is hosting this particular website. There's the webmaster, the person who maintains that site, and you've got the different languages. Just know 2 of them that our websites are created in. Okay, this is the important bit. The format of your URL or your Uniform Resource Locator. So here you can see, this is the service that runs on the internet. This is the site name, the type of organization, and the geographical location. Okay? Again, grade 10 work, things that we need to just look at there, and the types of organizations that we have as well. Go through that, familiarize yourself so that you can identify that. Something like that, that breakdown, grade 10, definitely coming in. Okay, and then they just show us some geographical abbreviations as well. IP address, we've already dealt with that. These are just the different types of websites. You can go through this, our web portals, where we are using it as a starting point for searching on the web. An informational website gives us info about various things to the public. Our news websites, that's self-explanatory. Business or marketing websites, again, You just need to know a few examples of the types of websites, not necessarily to explain all of them. Okay, wikis, they always ask you, what is a wiki? It's a website that allows for collaborative creating and editing of web pages. So with Wikipedia, for example, I can go and upload an article on a particular item. So I can say, well, I'm going to give my version of what a web. They actually don't like you to reference because it's not always truthful info. Yes.
Okay, so going back to Creative Commons, where you said it's legal and everyone has access to, wouldn't that be open source? Because Wikipedia is open source. It allows you to put information in, even if you're not.
But remember, this is the website. This is not software.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just
So
trying to, like, wouldn't those two in a way link with each other?
I wouldn't go there. Yeah? Don't go that route. Okay, then we've got our educational websites. Entertainment, guys, you can just go through these. I'm going to touch on this content aggregator, but you need to know this term as well. It is a website or application that gathers different web content from different online sources. So I will go through that. By now we know what a web browser is. Remember, it is a software application. Okay, and then they just give us a few features of the web browsers. Our search engine. Please know the difference between a web browser and a search engine. This is a program used to search for documents on the web by using keywords or phrases. Okay, so please know the difference between those two. E-communication, things like email, we know this. This is where you'll see we start to speed up now because we've already covered a lot of this. Okay, this is very important. This comes in all the time. Everything before the @ in an email address is the username. The @ and the first item here, that @mweb indicates the service provider. That's where the email address is located. That where that username is located. Remember our breakdown? .co, a type of organization, that's a company. Where is it located? In South Africa. So now I know that Mary Jones has an account at MWeb that's located in South Africa. All right. I hope that helps, guys. If you're still with me, let me know. I know this is a lot that we're going through. You can just go through some of the practical uses of emailing. Yeah, we know social networking. I don't have to go through that. Instant messaging. Again, we know that this allows us to message to and get messages from people in real time, meaning live. Okay. Then our blogs. Just know that your blog is like an online diary, right? Online journal. And you can go and, put personal things there. Businesses do that as well. Our fax to email, for those who still use the facility, you're using a fax machine that works via a telephone line. And what are you doing? When you send that fax through, it actually converts that into an email and sends the document through as an attachment to an email that will come through to you as well. Very importantly, this is the big one here, netiquette. This is using good manners and showing respect for others when using the internet. Okay? So think before you post, they say. And I'm not even going to go there because a lot of us don't. But yeah, that's what we should be doing. Just remember that as well. Also, what could you do to ensure that? Don't type in capitals. Files attached must be virus free. Didn't that come in? Grade 12 prelims. This is grade 10 work. It came in. Okay. So I'm going to go through that. Then safe internet usage. We've spoken about viruses. We've spoken about what the virus does. What's important is not just how it spreads, which can be via downloads, email attachments, files on people's flash drives, but also how do you know when your PC is infected with a virus? Files start disappearing. The computer begins to slow down. The program stops working. Those are just typical examples of how you will identify. So if they give you a scenario and say, John came to you and John has told you that this is happening, you can say, well, you know what? It seems like you've got a virus on your PC. virus prevention, the biggest one, or the biggest way, or the easiest way, is just to have antivirus software running. What does it do? It warns you, it deletes the virus, and in some cases it'll quarantine it before deleting it. Okay, so there they give us a couple of ways in which you can prevent that. I'm not going to go through all of that. You can see how long that is. Just know the difference between your virus and your worm. Your worm is a type of virus. What does it do? It replicates itself. It reproduces itself over the network and causes computers to slow down and crash. Again, we avoid this by antivirus software. Trojans, destructive programs disguised as useful applications. That's the main thing you need to know there. Okay? Spam, which is your junk mail. Getting emails that you never subscribed to, that you did not request, that is spam. Again, just watch who you are subscribing to, where you are going to, where you enter in your email addresses as well, and your ISP should have an anti-spam filter as well. Okay, and you get certain programs that do it for you as well. Okay, hoaxes and scams. Here they mention an internet hoax is an email, message, or article intended to deceive or defraud others. Similar to your phishing and farming techniques. Okay, so those are your hoaxes and scams. But a lot of the stuff we do know. Here we go. Phishing. You can see the picture over there. What is it doing? Conning the user into giving out personal and confidential details. So they're trying to get your details. Why? For fun? No. To be able to do something with it. To be able to commit some sort of a crime with it. You obviously just want to make sure everything is secure. You go into a proper website. You don't respond to some of these emails or messages as well. And here you can see, when you see this lock on a website and the S over there on your hypertext transfer protocol, it means that this is a secure website. Then we have our farming. Now, these are usually work together, phishing and farming. Because farming is where the user is redirected to a fake website. So they use the phishing. They bait you to say, you need to click on this link to update your banking details. And when you click on it, you've now got farming, which has now created a duplicate site. It's a fake site. You enter your username and password, and now they've got your info. Okay, so again, you can use spyware. Again, this type of software is built into your antivirus software. So it should do everything that you need it to. Then we've got email spoofing. This is changing an email header so that the email appears to come from a different source. So sometimes I'll get an email that says, you need to update your ABSA banking details, etc. But when I look at the email address that it's coming from, it's a Gmail. So how is it that they are doing that? Right? They're trying to fool me into actually clicking on the links that they want. And again, you can see it's used in spam and phishing emails. All these techniques are used together to try and get your info. Guys, just use the general guidelines. Use common sense. Use common sense. That's the biggest one. Don't click on pop-ups. Keep your antivirus software up to date. Those are just general guidelines that we need to use. Use good password policies. Don't use your boyfriend's name or your dog's name, your mother's name or your father's name or your own name. Don't do that. Okay, when these hackers check through, they go through like your profiles and that, and they'll find out what the names are. And they'll use it and say, and then what do we also do? We use the same password for every account we have. Yeah, you are guilty, and you and I, we all, we do that. Why? Because we can't remember it. If you look at this password, who's going to remember that? Like, I won't remember that. But these are good password policies. Okay, interacting with others online is the same like our netiquette. And there we have our different types of cables. You can see the difference between our unshielded twisted pair, our shielded twisted pair. This is a coaxial cable, and this is what our fiber optic cable looks like. Yes.
So what's a coaxial cable?
It's also used, it's very old technology. It's used, usually this was used like for your TVs, your TV aerials. I don't know if you remember the bunny aerial that you put on top of the TV. That's a coaxial cable running through there. Okay. So then we have terms that came up again in the prelim. EMI, electromagnetic interference, also called radio frequency interference. It's a disturbance generated by an external source that affects an electrical circuit by electromagnetic induction. Okay? It degrades the signal on the cable. So there was a scenario, I think, in the prelim where they said you had these cables running from one building to the other, and you had some or other company or something in the middle, and it started causing problems with the connectivity, and that's because of EMI. Okay? The other one you've got is crosstalk. This is unwanted transfer of signals between communication channels. In other words, you've got cables laying next to one another, and the electrical signals that are getting passed actually jump between the cables, and it causes problems with the communication. Okay? So you'll see when you want to like transfer data that it might slow down, it might work at times and then not work, and that's because of this. Okay, so those are two terms, grade 12s, that you must know. Okay, then the typical questions that have come up, things that we've already gone through: throttling, services by the ISP, shaping. There you've got a diagram of internet connectivity, an advantage of a wireless network and a disadvantage. Obviously, an advantage would be it's easy to connect to it. It allows for flexible, connectivity. But a disadvantage is, well, you might have certain devices that can't connect to it. You might have a range issue. It might not be, available in certain areas. It might not be as fast as your physical cables. So those are some of the things. These are some of the terms that came up as well. I'm going to go into this now. Our network topologies. Write this down. This term refers to the arrangement of the various elements in a network. So we're talking about how everything is physically connected together. That's our network topology. And we get a few different ones. The first one is a star topology. Now, please bear in mind, your computers are not going to physically sit in this manner. Like, you're not going to see it sit in a star. Okay? If you look around at where I am, okay, let me take you this way. You'll see there's my computers, and I'm over here. The switch is behind me, and it doesn't mean that it's in that star format. What it means is that all the computers are connected to a physical switch. Doesn't matter if they are in a line and they're all going through there. That's what they're referring to. The ring network topology. This is something when I was studying my network diploma, we dealt with this a long while ago. So in this, you'll see how these computers are connected, and only when a particular computer has the token can it communicate with the others. Okay, so this is a very old style, but it does still get used in certain scenarios. And then we have our bus network topology. You'll see with your bus network, your line is terminated at both ends. So all of these computers here can communicate with each other. The beauty of this is if one is cut off, it's not going to affect the others, but it has to be terminated at both ends. So those are your typical topologies. Your star, which is what's mainly used today, your ring, and your bus. Okay, so Carlton, I hope that sorts out the topologies. That brings me to a question that came up. What type of network topology is seen in the diagram? Line, bus, tree, or ring? Is it a star? Does that look like your star? Does it look like your ring? Or does it look like your bus? Okay, you can see there's a terminator on the end. There's a terminator on the end. So it is B, my bus topology. They also gave us a scenario where they were talking about two buildings connecting, okay, and how they would connect. So this is where your topology comes in, your physical cables, your wireless, the advantages, disadvantages, all of those things then come in. And then our 3D printers as well. Don't forget your 3D printers. What are the advantages of 3D printing? What can it help me to do? So those things you need to bear in mind when it comes to 3D printing. And the fact that if I have a 3D print, I think there was a scenario in June where they spoke about the drone and why would it be cheaper for me to, or easier or better for me to print my parts than to buy it. And that's, well, it's going to cost me less. I can print customized parts according to what I need, and I don't have to wait for stock and things like that. I can just go and print my own parts. So those are just some of the advantages. This is the one I've been waiting for. What is piggybacking? All of you, everybody is guilty of piggybacking. That is when you are jumping onto another person's internet connection. When you go to the back of your house, that particular room that catches your neighbor's signal. Yeah, that one, that place. And you know what? Your neighbor doesn't have a password. So what do? Connect. And you just download. And you are knocking it left, right, and center. You are piggybacking. What are you? You are a data thief. You are a computer criminal.
We didn't know all these things would lead up to like such things now. But now we're all wiser.
I'm glad.
Now.
Oh, you go to the cafes? Yeah, the cafes have limited data for a limited time. Zanele, if you can give me a picture of what your lab looks like, because if it's got a switch in it and all the computers are connected to that switch via physical cables, then you would have a star. Your thin clients, so you've got thin clients. So a thin client, you basically running everything from the server. If it's all going through switch, it would still be your star topology. And there we have our product key. What is the purpose of a product key? To be able to use or access the software completely, fully. It's to activate, to show that you are the legal owner of that software. Remember, going to jail because you took office from someone on a USB. Yeah, not happening. Okay, so that's the purpose of a product key. It also helps the company know that another piece of software has been sold and activated and who it belongs to. Okay, that is important. Differences between a laptop and smartphone. There you can see that as well. We know most of these things, but these are typical questions that have come up. 2 ways to repair a flash drive. That's a very interesting question because you can see the marks came from, number one, formatting the flash drive, and the other one to, when you plug in the flash drive and it says that there's a problem, do you want to, fix it? You can click on yes, and the scan disk should run. Remember, what does a scan disk do? Checks that drive to see if there's errors and fixes them.
Wouldn't that be disk fragmentation?
Disk defragmentation. It looks through your entire hard drive to see where there are fragments of different files and brings them together so it's properly organized. So that's different from your scan disk.
That would be under your file management.
But remember, it's still going to be a utility. It's not going to take your files and folders and rearrange them. This is something that happens in the background. Because when you go and you work on your PC, you sometimes format, you delete, you copy, you paste, and there's fragments in the background that's taking up space. So it helps with that. We know the function of a driver. We know how plug and play works. So that's fine. Okay, ICT in the workplace. I think we've dealt with most of this. The computer itself, very important here. Computers are classified according to their purpose, their power, and their size. So the more powerful they are, generally, the bigger they'll be. I mean, you look at some of these cell phones now. We used to laugh at the fact that cell phones look like bricks. Now we have cell phones that still look like bricks. Okay? They're just much more powerful than the original bricks. I mean, these, especially the Samsung Fold, that and the Huawei, I mean, those are like deadly weapons that you are carrying around with you. So it functions as a phone and a weapon. Keep yourself safe. Okay, so Lesedi is asking, what exactly does formatting do? So formatting cleans everything off of that particular device. For example, a flash drive. If you format it, it will delete everything and it will completely clean that flash drive. You format your PC, you are completely cleaning it. Like there'll be nothing on it. Okay, that's what formatting does. We've dealt with dedicated and general purpose. We've spoken about our portability. I just want to touch on one thing here. Just have a look at the difference between a laptop, netbook, and ultrabook. Your laptop, just remember this, has a fully functioning keyboard. So a full keyboard. I'm going to just move this thing here. A full keyboard, like everything, all the buttons. Your netbook usually has the keyboard, but it doesn't have that number pad on the side. And then your ultrabook is more powerful than a netbook. It's basically just a more powerful version. Okay, then we've got our consumer tablets, which are the tablets we know and love, and a lot of us have. And then your traditional tablet is the one that has a reversible screen with a normal keyboard. So this would be, I know there's quite a few of them. I'm not a big fan of them, but yeah, just know the difference between. It would. Okay, we know some of the features of our smartphones. I don't have to go into that. This is important, protecting your data and your hardware as well. So think of your computer lab. Lesedi is asking, would formatting be a method to get rid of a virus? It would. Just not on your PC. Like that would be the last resort. Otherwise, you lose everything. So if it's on a flash drive, yes. But that would be like an absolute last resort if the virus has really wreaked havoc on your entire PC. So some anti-theft strategies, and they usually use this in a scenario for a computer lab, saying, how would you keep everything safe? Well, you can use devices such as cable locks. You can chain the equipment down. You can use lockable cabinets. You can lock the door. You can put in an alarm. All those type of things. Then we have UPSs, and I'm going to go through this with another slide. We can also adjust the power settings on our laptops. Okay, and there you can see a screenshot of the power plans that we have. Again, you can go through this. Know the difference between changing the power settings and using the sleep function. Right? The idea is that you can close your laptop, and when you open it, you can still continue working, and you can see some of the settings over there as well. So these are some of the things that you can adjust to use less power. Input, okay, we've dealt with most of this. Our scanners as well, DPI for the quality of that scanned image. Okay, so our printers and our scanners, they're going to deal with DPI. We know some of the advantages of the scanners, guys. I'm going to go past that. Our point and shoot cameras. This is an example of a point and shoot camera. Point and shoot camera doesn't have a lens that can clip off. Okay, so it's your normal digital cameras, but the minute you can change lenses, it now falls into the DSLR. And you can see there's things that we look at in terms of our digital camera, like the sensor size, the optical zoom, the resolution, the ISO rating. Those are all important factors when buying a digital camera. Biometrics, we already spoke about this. Measuring the unique biological features of a person, where you have scanners that are going to read or recognize something like your fingerprint, your iris, or your voice. Okay? There are some advantages of it. Obviously, advanced security. You are the only person who has those particular features. And the disadvantages would obviously be that it's very expensive. Needs additional equipment there as well. And please don't fall for what they do in the movies, where if I don't want to scan my hand, they chop off my hand, take my hand and go and scan it in. It doesn't work like that. It not only scans your print, but the blood flow inside as well.
And your pulse?
Well, that's going to relate to the blood flow, because if there's no pulse, there's nothing moving inside. So, okay, ATMs that we should know. We know what the ATM does. Input device over there, dedicated device. Yeah, they don't really ask much on that. The POS system, they do ask. We've been through RFID tags and barcodes. So you can just go through that. Just know at least two of the advantages of the POS system. So it is much faster, and prices can be updated with greater accuracy as well. Okay, and then obviously because this whole system is online, we saw with load shedding, when the power goes out, the whole shop comes to a standstill. This is why most shops now have generators to keep the system running. I mean, they were losing hundreds of millions of rands a day. You can think of someone like Pick n Pay. If they go down for 1 hour, just 1 hour nationwide, how much money are they going to lose? Okay, so this is why they've been investing in all this type of equipment to prevent that. Okay, output. We know output devices, guys. I'm going to breeze through this because this is stuff we've been through now already. Just want to get to some of these. No, we've been through a lot of this. We've been through our monitor, aspect ratio, all of that. Okay, so that's fine. An interactive whiteboard. What does this do? It functions like a normal, well, looks like a normal whiteboard, but I can actually project everything onto the screen, and I can actually write and interact with that board as if I'm working on my PC as well. So I can display a PowerPoint presentation and I can interact with it, make notes and all those type of things as well. So just know, again, at least 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages of those whiteboards as well. Again, cost, size, you know, the digital divide. People who know how to work with it and those who don't. Don't assume everybody knows, okay? Because they don't. Printers, we've spoken about our printers. We've spoken about our wireless technology, plug and play. We've touched on that already, right? Drivers, we've dealt with that. This is another one. Input and output for physically challenged users. People, please, there's a difference between somebody having an impairment and a complete disability. Like, I am visually impaired. Why? Because I need glasses. Am I blind? No, I'm not. So please don't confuse the two. If the person is blind, they will need things like a braille keyboard or braille display, a braille printer. Why? Because they can't see. They need to feel their way through. They can use software such as speech recognition. So I can speak whatever my instructions are to the PC to do. If I'm visually impaired, it means I can still see, but not that great. So I can increase the size of icons. I can use the magnifier. I can use large keyboards. I am not blind, please. Visually impaired and blind are 2 different things. Same with hearing impaired and deaf. Hearing impaired means I'm a little bit hard of hearing. I can turn up the sound. I can use more visual cues, right? But if I'm deaf, I can't hear anything. So I'm going to use a vibration device on screen, you know, lights and things like that, so that I can see because my hearing is gone. So just know the difference between those. Motor control. This is where I might not even have the ability to use my hands. I might be paralyzed from the neck down. That's your motor control skills. So you'd use things like eye tracking devices, head movement devices, maybe large keyboards, trackballs, okay, joysticks. They give us a number of different options there. Okay, health issues, we've already done this. Memory and storage, we've already touched on that, the difference between the two. We've looked at our ads, online storage. What is online storage? Please remember, it is a place online on the internet where I'm storing information. Dropbox is a typical example. My Google Drive is another example. Okay, so you can work out the advantages and disadvantages there. Online storage versus cloud computing is different. Why? Because cloud computing, I'm using the application online. I'm computing on the cloud itself. So when I'm using Google Sheets, I'm working online on that particular program. Okay? Online storage is just me storing my files online. Okay, backing up, we've spoken about. You can see limitations and disadvantages of what, Zanele? Just give me what you're wanting me to touch on there. Then the difference between backups and archiving. So remember, backups is creating a copy to store it somewhere else via a flash drive or things like that. Archiving, like with your WhatsApp, you archive, you take that message and you move it somewhere else to use at a later stage. Okay, are we all still together? Ah. Now with the grade 12s, they are going to have a lot of troubleshooting coming through as well, so you need to go through that section. Our processing is now dealing with the hardware items that deal with the processing in the PC, like your motherboard, your CPU, your RAM, and your ROM. This is important. How does the computer start itself? You might need to describe this, even grade 10s and 11s. When you press that start button, what happens? The instructions, the permanent instructions stored in ROM, what do? They now load, they run. What does it do? It begins to check things in the PC. You know when you switch on your PC and it goes beep? That's the ROM having checked all of that stuff. It gives a signal to say everything is okay. Then it looks for the hard drive. It looks to see where the operating system is located, and then it begins to load the operating system. All right, the next section that comes up is information management. Here they talk about things like, here's a question that came up regarding the negative effects of fake news. And there you can see the different types of options that you have in terms of answers. Again, another question on fake news, discuss why you should not use blogs. So I just want you to understand what they're trying to do with information management. Okay, what are you doing with the info? Here again, feedback forms. This is where you'll get questions like things about surveys, questionnaires, things like that. This was a very important question that came through. Remember, we've been doing the information processing cycle, and they wanted you now to do what? They're saying here, once the completed feedback forms have returned, the admin manager is required to enter the data on an Excel spreadsheet. Using the headings below, input, processing, and output, explain the process that must be followed. So we're taking that information processing cycle, and they'll usually talk about it as the IPO process. What is it doing? Input, he's going to be capturing all that data. Processing, he will have to group it, categorize it, all of that. And then output is what he gets out as a result of the processing, maybe creating a graph or printing the information as well. There's more questions along the lines of what you could use in a document to make it easier to navigate. We could use things like hyperlinks. Right? If you've got a massive document, you can use hyperlinks for your different chapters or different topics, so the person can click on that and go to that specific item. You with me? Okay, so the limitations of online storage is the fact that you need to be online. So you need to have data, you need to have internet connectivity. You don't have control over the company that's storing the data. So for example, Dropbox. If they burn down as a company, I don't have control over my data. They deal with the security. So the advantages would be like, they see to the security, they see to the maintenance, they manage everything on their side. I can connect to it anywhere as long as I have data. That's also a disadvantage. I will be limited in terms of how much I can store, and I might pay for that as well. Yes, the S in HTTPS means secure. Okay. Another one that came up, the definition of the term algorithm. That is a set of instructions for solving a problem or accomplishing a task. So they'll often talk about the TikTok algorithm or the YouTube algorithm, right? That's what they're talking about. There you'll see. This is a grade 12 question. Explain the difference between information and data, but referring to the scenario. We know data is raw facts. We know information is processed data. Now we need to speak about that in relation to the scenario. Okay? So that's how it begins to change between grade 10 to grade 12. 2 ways of conducting a survey. There they give us a couple of examples. 2 considerations for designing a user-friendly website. Okay? Practical things. Practical things. It should be readable, a good layout, easy to navigate. it should be accessible to everyone. So those are just a few of the things that come up. Then social implications, things like social engineering. Okay, this is that whole process of trying to get information out of the user to commit criminal activities. So things like your phishing, your farming, all of those type of things. They'll start talking about your social media platforms like Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, why people would be using it. Output devices for blind people, right? Your braille printer. Type of software that the blind person could use. Speech recognition software could be used there. So these are just typical questions that are always coming up. Email as well. Remember, this is now under your social implications. Give indications that a received email may be a possible phishing attempt. One possible reason why an email program is set to block exe, and this is because it could be a virus. Okay, no problem, Carlton. No problem. We are almost done. Measures to prevent hackers from accessing your PC. One reason why some free apps are not really free. We know the free apps have got tons of ads. Okay, they're not really free because you've got to watch the ads. If you want the full version, you've got to pay for it. They make income through advertising. So yeah, there's a whole lot of different things there. And then remember now, your hacker, the way to prevent them is using a firewall, your antivirus software. Don't share your password. Use strong passwords. Those are all ways to do that. Okay, geotagging, I've done that. Our wikis, we've spoken about that. There were a couple of questions that came up under these topics as well. Social engineering, TikTok, the benefits, the disadvantages. Again, typical questions that have come up. Okay, application software, we've dealt with all of that. This one. Updating, upgrading, and service packs. So please remember the difference. When it comes to updating, some software has to do this automatically so that you have the latest version of that particular program. So it's updating the program as a whole. Okay? And this would be to add features. Your service pack is where you have a number of updates that are brought together. So you install it as a pack. And your upgrade is where you're upgrading the entire platform. So like Windows 10 to Windows 10 version 2 or Windows 11 or things like that. So just understand the difference between those three. Your update is usually improving features. Okay, we've done this. Practices with blogging. I actually want to come out of this. There's certain things I want to touch on. So here's solution development. This is one that comes up. This is where they use a lot of the practical work, grade 12s. So a lot of your prac work comes in theory format. Mail merge, Excel, integration of Office packages. Here's one again, Word, the ruler in Word. What can you do to make an Excel worksheet fit on one page? Right? These are all things that come up. Here we go, our wonderful mail merge and the things we can do in mail merge, which we'll look at tomorrow. Sorting, filtering, all these things. They ask it in theory format. So you must understand your prac work in order to do this. We've touched on a lot of that, so I'm going to skip that. I'm actually just going to go to the last section because time is not going to permit me to touch on all of that, but I'm going to go here. So our last massive area was the integrated scenario, which counts for most of the marks. And here you can see there's a multifunction printer. Okay, so they'll ask you for things relating to a multifunction printer. Grid computing, where we have multiple computers that are actually combining their processing power in order to accomplish a task, like weather systems. Weather systems will have massive computers that are using their combined processing power to perform tasks. 3 dangers of constantly using smartphones that could pose to your health. So different dangers there. There you have an HDMI cable. There's your HDMI cable, right? You can see they also have a general name for an HTML element. These are your tags. There again, this was in your prelim. You recognize this. That's the aspect ratio that they were referring to, the resolution, and the refresh rate. Okay, another scenario of web-based email versus ISP-based mail. Okay, I see all of that come through. Our push technology, so technology used to give load shedding schedules to your area. The fact that you get those notifications, that's push technology. GPS, it picks up what area, and then based on what you've asked it to do, it sends that information to you. Two-step authentication means you are confirming something using a secondary device. So you go into your internet banking and they say, please confirm the transaction on your phone. Or you have that Google Authenticator, right? That's two-step authentication, two-step verification. They've got different scenarios. An acceptable user policy or acceptable use policy. Please, that is the policy that's put in place as to how you can use the internet. For example, you said when you went to like KFC or McDonald's, you can connect to their Wi-Fi. Sorry. You can connect to their Wi-Fi, and then what happens? You can only use it for a certain amount of time and a certain amount of data. That's the acceptable use policy that you are agreeing to. An acceptable way of using their internet. All right. Clickjacking, another term. Malware that tricks the users to click on an item with a hidden link in it. That is clickjacking. Okay, then again some prac questions that come through. What is a primary key validation rule? We'll go through those things tomorrow. There again are some specs of the PC. Your quad-core processor. Please remember, when we talk about dual-core and quad-core, it doesn't mean there's 4 processors. When we say dual-core, it's still one physical chip, but the way it works in 2 different ways. And when I say this, this is what I mean. In dual-core, what it's done is to say, well, 50% of the processing power is going to be used to deal with queries. Opening folders, files, instructions, that type of thing. The other 50% is going to be used for gaming. So when you're running a game, you're only using 50% of the processing power, and you can still do other things. With a quad core, it means that's now broken up into 4 pieces. So 25% of the processing power will be to run the PC as a whole. The other one will deal with opening files. The other one will deal with video, those type of things. So that's why we've moved from dual core, quad core to I-core, which is an intelligent core, which means now our CPU can think for itself to say, listen, opening files doesn't need that much. I'm only going to give it as much as it needs. Whereas playing a game needs much more processing power. I'm going to give it that. Okay. You'll see again, pracs. Thank you for everything, sir. You are Superman. You boosted my confidence and will be the reason. Beautiful. Let me know when you get that A. Let me know. Okay, so I'm going to go past this to the last few slides, guys, and then we shall call it a day. I did say 12 o'clock, and I will stick to my word. Remember the file path? Remember this in prelims, grade 12s? You saw this thing, and it asked, what does that section represent? The server on which the file. In other words, that would have usually been your D drive or your C drive that we saw in the file path. Only this time we are referring to a server. Everything else remains the same. This front section indicates where it's physically located. In this case, it's on the server. Okay. I want to get to that other. Okay. Our hacker and our cracker, we know the difference now. Our hacker's our good guy, cracker the bad guy. Hacker's got decent ethics, cracker not so much. Hacker doesn't want to commit crime, but the cracker does. Okay. QR code technology, beautiful thing about it is doesn't really have any security flaws, and it cannot be hacked. Okay, so that's the good thing about the QR code. Also some advantages and disadvantages of the QR codes. that you can go through. Again, you should only know like one of each really. Here's the content aggregator. We dealt with this. I just wanted to show you an example. So here, if you go to all top, let me have a look here. No, I was mentioning that the QR code has no security flaws, Carlton. Okay, all top, you can see it's combining info from a lot of different sites into one. So it's bringing that together based on what I want. Here's another one from a travel blogger community. Again, just showing you what that content aggregator, because sometimes you don't want to visit all these different sites. You want to visit one site that brings everything together. Then our UPS versus our inverter. I include this because this is practical now. A lot of us are using inverters and UPSs. So the UPS gets plugged into the wall, gets plugged into power. That's where it draws its power from. You then work on the UPS itself. The main function of the inverter is to convert AC power to DC power. So it connects to a battery. And then from there, you connect into the inverter. So if we look at the two, the UPS is more expensive. The inverter is less expensive. The UPS supplies short duration power. Okay? You can use it for domestic and industrial use. And when they ask you what's the main purpose of a UPS, it's to keep the machines running so that you can switch it off and save your work properly, right? So that you have time to do that. The inverter is there to keep things running, and it's usually only for domestic use. Okay, there you can see how your UPS is running, and they did ask about two functions of the UPS, providing backup power, and you can use any one of those options over there. 2 ways to ensure learners do not abuse internet access. Our acceptable use policy is going to be that. And we can see a number of options that we have in place as well. You can use any of those in terms of blocking the sites, limiting the time that they are on, limiting the amount of data that they use. And then the very last item that I know hardly anyone has covered is cryptocurrency. So there's the definition of the term. It's a digital or virtual currency secured by cryptography. This is the process of taking something that's readable and changing it into something that's not understandable. So taking your name and jumbling it up into words, letters, symbols, that's cryptography. And based on a network that is distributed across a large number of computers. That is what a cryptocurrency is. Again, that was the term that came up. They asked that. Okay, there's another nice picture just showing you it's virtual money using the cryptography on a decentralized network, which, and if you think about it, the banks work centrally. There's like one head office for Absa and Capitec, and you saw when Capitec went down, what happened? Head office went down, everything else went down. With crypto, it doesn't work like that. There is no head office. It's completely decentralized. So those features are what make cryptocurrency so popular. And these are some of the questions that came up. What is Bitcoin? What is the purpose of Bitcoin and the blockchain? Name some features that make Bitcoin different from using traditional banking. Okay? This is all important stuff. And then, why is it considered mostly safe? Name one technology negative or disadvantage when dealing with it. And there you can see a few of those. I think I'll do this. I will put this whole presentation on a link for all of you, for you to actually work through this and go through whatever you need to as well. And so, now you are ready. I see Rabetsu is saying, thank you, sir, for this live lesson. This is really going to help me in terms of getting ready for my theory. Yes. Let's get this on here so I can see you. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your patience, for being with me. I said 3 hours, and it is 3 hours. I said I'm finishing at 12, and I'm a man of my word. I will finish at 12. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for making the time to be here, for your interaction. I love this. I'm going to be going through the comments and seeing who's going to be awarded with the prize for today. But again, thank you for the time. I'm glad to be of service to all of you and to help you where I can. So I'll see you 9 a.m. tomorrow morning when we plow through our prac work. Okay, God bless, and I'll see you guys again.